He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Caroline Fenton is here today. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, how we doing?
Outstanding. Ian Safar is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
All right. Practice number 10 today. I don't even have my pad in front of me, even though they did do real stuff, and they did wear pads, and they did thump some, and they did throw the football, and Nick Westbrook-Akina did drop the football, and Racy McMath did, again, continue to catch the football. But practice was kind of boring.
Yeah, it didn't really do much for me today.
And I'm starting to get to a point with practice, and excuse me if this is the case, where it's time for a game. Like, they play on Thursday, so they'll practice, I think, privately tomorrow or walk through or whatever you want to call it. They'll do that tomorrow. And then they'll fly to Baltimore on Wednesday, and then Logan Woodside and Malik Willis will play, and then the Titans will get back to next week where Tampa Bay will be in here, and then Arizona comes in here, and so on and so forth. But I want to start the show on this, because I kind of started to notice this over the weekend, and it's the quarterback, Ryan Tannehill. And it's not about what he did. You all know I've been talking about his camp performance, and I've liked his camp performance, and I've been positive about his camp performance. And it's no act. It's just what I see I like out there. But I started hearing some things that seemed kind of different from Tannehill. It was like it was more demanding from Tannehill. It was like it was more aggressive from Tannehill. It looked like it was more direct from Tannehill. And I was trying to think, what is this? And finally, he started talking today about pushing his teammates, something I have never heard Ryan Tannehill talk about. And so finally I asked, are you pushing the guys harder? Are you pushing these guys harder?
Yeah, I think so. Probably so. You know, I think I'm trying to push these guys each and every day. Like I said, don't want to take any day for granted out here, but I'm going to try to push them and get the best out of them, as well as myself. You know, I'm pushing myself, trying to get the best out of myself. So if we can all do that, if everyone who steps foot on that field can push themselves and the leaders can push the guys around us to get the best out of everybody, we're going to be a really good football team.
Okay. That's not on brand, is it?
No.
That's not the character of Ryan Tannehill that we're used to seeing. I'm going to push these guys. I mean, almost, to put it the other way, with some of these other quarterbacks, like let's use Ben Roethlisberger, for example. I've never covered Ben Roethlisberger, but I've watched Ben Roethlisberger for 20 years. If I were to say to Ben Roethlisberger, and again, I'm assuming, but if I were to say to Ben Roethlisberger, Ben, you going to push those guys? It's almost like I would expect Ben to be like, hell yeah, I'm going to push those guys.
What kind of question is that?
Screw those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, their job is to do what I tell them to do. When I throw the football, that's my job, is to tell them what to do. Ryan Tannehill, I personally, I've never felt like Ryan Tannehill was ever that way, right?
I always kind of got the vibe that he was a more quiet leader, that he wasn't going to go up to you and say, you messed up, this is on you, I need you to be better. I've never viewed him as that kind of leader.
Well, remember when it comes to the word leader, we used to talk about Tannehill after he decided that voluntary workouts were not more important than home renovations. And I said,
That's bad leadership.
He's a good guy, but he's a bad leader. And now Tannehill, I'm trying to push these guys more. I'm trying to tell them where to be. I'm trying to tell them what to do. And so, obviously, I'm going to ask Vrabel about what's going on here. And I thought one word Vrabel used was so incredibly telling when I asked him about this new Tannehill. Here's what Vrabel said today. Have you noticed Ryan pushing the guys?
I think his leadership is, something that's been good. I think that's probably intentional. I think he knows when to push guys and when to pull them along, and sometimes how you have to approach certain guys to get the best out of them. And if I'm a receiver, that's the most important relationship that we'll have on our football team, is the one with the quarterback and the receiver, because that he's the guy throwing the ball. So wherever he needs them or wants them on a particular route or versus particular coverage, That's where I would be if I wanted to try to get the ball.
What word stood out to you there that what Vrabel said?
Intentional.
It's been intentional.
He meant to do that. He's been thinking about that.
It's been intentional. So Ryan's pushing the guys harder. Coach, what do you make of Ryan pushing the guys harder? And the coach says that's been intentional. What I make of that is what we've talked about for a long time, which is they sat down with him. And I don't think this was like Vrabel walked into the room with Tannehill and threw down on a piece of paper, Ryan, here are the things you need to be better at. But I think it was a discussion of where did you feel like you stunk it up last year? Where did you feel like you could have done a better job? Where do we feel you could have done a better job? And I think this is Vrabel finally looking at the quarterback. And instead of, I just want everybody to do what I say all the time, I'm the dictator, I'm the coach, everybody do their job, I think Vrabel has gone to Tannehill, and I think he has said, you have to be kind of a jerk. You have to push these guys. If you don't like where they are, get in their ass. If you don't like the way they're acting, you get on them. If you think they need to run 8 yards and they run 13 yards, you let them have it. You take ownership in this offense. This is your crack at it. And maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe it's the other way around, right? Like maybe Vrabel went to Tannehill, or Tannehill went to Vrabel and said, I need to be more assertive. But my gut tells me that it was Vrabel who went to Tannehill and not the other way around. But it's obvious that it's something.
And I do wonder if that's a situation, if it's coming intrinsically from Ryan Tannehill. If he looked at that Bengals game, and, I mean, he's told us, it's a scar that I'm going to wear forever. It's affected me a lot in this offseason. It's almost like, if you hit rock bottom in anything, whatever it might be, you have to hit that rock bottom to make a complete lifestyle change. It's not just one change here or there. You are going to say, I'm going to completely turn my life around. I'm going to change all of my bad habits. So I wonder if Tannehill kind of hit that rock bottom, so to speak, against the Bengals and thought, you know what, no more of that. Not only am I going to work on my accuracy and work on myself as a quarterback, but it's going to be a complete change. I'm going to act like a new leader. I'm going to be a new person, leader, visionary for this football team because I've seen how bad it can be, and I don't want to go back there.
I wonder if this comes from all that therapy that he said that he went through after the Bengals game, in which he really dug through the pain of that game and the pain of the season. And if through that process he realized a regret that he had was that he wasn't holding guys accountable enough. Look, a lot of people don't like confrontation. And everybody likes to talk like they can handle confrontation. But I think a lot of people really don't like it.
It's not a fun conversation.
It is not a fun conversation to have. It's not fun to tell people what to do. And some people don't mind it at all. And I think that's why Vrabel's been a captain almost everywhere he's been. And I think that's why the New England people, oh, yeah, hire Vrabel. He's got to be the coach because Vrabel probably had a lot of these characteristics. I think Vrabel remembers what it was like with Tom Brady and how Tom Brady used to treat these guys. And Tannehill doesn't have it. We talked about this after everybody screwed everything up in the Arizona game last year. And about how Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill needed to start acting like Michael Jordan in The Last Dance when he would get on guys and push them to go further. Now, the reality is Ryan Tannehill's never going to act like Michael Jordan. It's never going to be, the aggressiveness with which Michael used to intimidate others. That's not going to happen, but it is different. And then I think the subsequent question has to be, do we think this makes a difference in how Ryan Tannehill's quarterbacking will be this season?
And that's kind of the tough question, is you might say, well, yeah, he's taking ownership of everything else on the field, so he's going to feel empowered. He's going to feel more of that confidence. And maybe that's the case, that he starts to feel a little bit more confident in himself as a quarterback whenever he's being a more vocal and confident leader. But I don't really know if it's a little bit too rich for my blood. Here's my problem with people who try to change who they are once who they are is already established. And I believe that this is part of it's almost like the new kid at school analogy, where if you're a kid and you go to a new school,
then you can act however you'd like to act.
You
now,
can be whoever you want to be. Nobody knows you.
And in reality, my guess is that if it were me, ultimately I'd revert to whatever I am no matter what anyways.
Right.
But there's always this sense for me that, I can do and be however I want to be. The hard part is when I will have felt like I'm already been established at that school, and then I try to change how I act. The reality is that if I were to start coming on the air every day and saying, I went to practice today and I thought everything was wonderful and I think the Titans are great and I think the Predators are going to win the Cup this year.
I would have to take your temperature.
People would know it's all bull.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they know that with Tannehill, because I think they like Tannehill and I think they believe a little bit in Tannehill, but I don't know if Tannehill has that inside of him to kind of, we'll see. Nick
but
Westbrook.
Also, it hasn't been such a 180 that it's like, whoa, I don't recognize this Ryan Tannehill. And maybe it's more so on inside the building that he's a little bit more, up in people's butts now. But like from what I've seen at practice, it's definitely more getting on other people than he has done in the past. But it's not so much so that I'm like, okay, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, like take a step back.
But you've noticed it. I've noticed it. It's
sure
abundantly clear.
Notice it.
So then it's probably more so there. I mean, look, I'll say this. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think Tannehill trying to be Johnny Accountability is necessarily going to work. I don't think all of a sudden he is going to hold these guys accountable and it's going to be like Peyton Manning or it's going to be like Tom Brady or it's going to be like Ben Roethlisberger. I do think it's the only choice he has. I don't think he has the choice to be Johnny Nice Guy. And I think he is, and I don't think that's going to fly around here. I don't think he can do that. I think in the past he could have gotten away with that. And I think maybe he did a little bit in 2020, and maybe there were stronger leaders in the room, like whether it's Arthur or whomever. But I don't think Ryan Tannehill anymore can just sit back and be okay with this guy not running the route here. I mean, even in that Bengals game, his timing with Julio was awful.
So off.
Even in passes that he completed. So I hear this, and I'm like, you know what? Ryan Tannehill's different. Is it going to work? I don't know. But it's different. So with that, let's get your phones on it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. The word Vrabel used when talking about a new Ryan Tannehill that we're looking at, or as far as him pushing his guys more, the word he used was intentional. Well, I asked Mike what he meant by that, because I thought that was pretty interesting. We'll get to that coming up next. And the message is clear, what it was from Vrabel and his crew to Tannehill. We'll get to that. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. By the way, shout out to TriStar Moving.
Shout out.
They're going to stick with us as we continue along with TriStar Moving as our title sponsor upcoming for the season again. So this will be what? They became our title sponsor in 2020, and it was 2021, and now we're in 2022, and we're headed into 2023. And we love our friends at TriStar Moving. They are fantastic. TriStar Moving with 5-star service. They did a fantastic job moving me, and they do a fantastic job supporting this show as our title sponsor. So shout out to TriStar Moving once again. We are so happy for that. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's a fact. Guys hate going to the doctor. But when it comes to erectile dysfunction and low testosterone issues, men from all over Middle Tennessee have been thrilled seeing Dr. Alderson and their providers at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Men all the way up to 95 years old have jump-started their sex drive and energy levels. Lots of men suffer with ED for years, but now they're able to enjoy sex again. Tom from Nashville said, "The Tennessee Men's Clinic has changed my life. I have been able to be intimate with my wife for the first time in 5 years. She thought this problem was because of her, but the pills never worked for me. I had given up until I went to the clinic and realized there were more options for erectile dysfunction. Now I'm happy and my wife is happy. A visit for only $99, and that includes all testing, including a PSA and testosterone test. Give the guys at the clinic a call at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090. Or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments, extra, results vary.
Jared Stillman.
Football season, and then football season becomes hockey season, and then it becomes draft season, and then it becomes hockey playoff season.
And company.
Maybe this is something to just get people a little bit interested.
It's a matter of not having too many chefs in the kitchen.
Catch Stillman and Company on your drive home. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6 on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game and The Game Nashville app.
And I can spot it from a mile away.
Watch live on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
At Mitchell's Mr. Transmission, we also offer free towing with any major repairs. If your vehicle has a breakdown and you should need any type towing is available through Dad's Towing Service. Dad's is a professional towing company in Nashville that provides all types towing and recovery, 24 hours a day.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
I'm Cindy Mae Johnson from Mountaintop Media in the beautiful Appalachian Mountains of eastern Kentucky, where flash floods have taken lives and destroyed homes. The news can never accurately convey how much help is needed. If you're willing or able to help, even a little, please donate to the East Kentucky Dream Center on Venmo or at ekdc.info. Thank you for your prayers and support.
Never miss a moment of the show. What is this? Check it out. Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
I'm not sure I've ever heard you talk about guys making plays specifically for you. And I heard it in the SiriusXM interview you did over the weekend. Is there more of an ownership of the offense for you personally with this group this year?
I don't know. I take ownership every year, but I keep saying the same thing. It just gives me a lot of confidence when guys are making plays. I think early on you're kind of giving guys an opportunity, right? They haven't had the opportunity to make a play, especially some of the young guys. You give them an opportunity, and they make the play, then you give them another opportunity. And then you kind of build that confidence. Even if you don't make every one, you get that confidence that they're going to make more than they don't. So at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Like I said, beating the guy across from you, and if QB gives you a chance making a play on the ball, then from our seats as quarterbacks is, if a guy has shown to do that, it's our job to get him a ball in a spot where they can go get it.
Tannehill, it's not. Every year I act this way, even though everybody the first day say, hey, it seems like you've been more vocal and every year I try to be this way. Every year
Even though this is an intentional change per Mike Vrabel, he's always like this. And
speaking of the word intentional, which again, Ryan Tannehill, I asked, have you been pushing the guys harder? Tannehill said yes. I asked Vrabel about that. Vrabel says it's been intentional. Well, that word intentional stood out to me. So, Mike, what did you mean? What was intentional? When you say intentional on Ryan pushing the guys more this year, was that something that you had discussed with him wanting to see him do, or something that he told you?
I think that's all of us. I think that's between me, Ryan, the offensive staff, Todd. Just taking ownership of this thing and making sure that, give the quarterback an opportunity to correct him or tell him what he wants to tell him, and then, Rob can fill in whatever blanks, or, Todd can fill whatever blanks in with, with Ryan.
Do you know what I think this is? One, I think Vrabel and Downing sat down with Tannehill and said, look, we ask everybody on this team to do their job. Mm-hmm. We ask everybody on this team to do what we tell them to do. We need you to start acting like a coach out there. And not for everybody else. We need you to do that for you. If you don't like something, we need to know about it. If you think Johnny sucks, we need to know that you think Johnny sucks, so we won't put Johnny in the game. If you think that Johnny's not running his route right, you need to tell us, you need to tell Johnny, and you need to tell Rob Moore, because the way that I heard that right there with Vrabel was like it's a collective process between him, Downing, and Tannehill. And then it was Ryan decides what he likes and then can go to Rob Moore, the receivers coach, and fill in the blanks. I think that this is essentially a promotion by Vrabel of Tannehill and what his responsibilities are. I believe Vrabel is doing it because this is the only way that he can get Ryan Tannehill to be more of an a-hole, and that's what Vrabel needs.
Well, and that also makes me think, was Arthur Smith the captain of this ship all along? Because Mike Vrabel used a word, ownership, taking ownership of this entire operation. Mm-hmm. Was Arthur Smith the one that had pretty much sole ownership of the offense? Was he the one that was getting on to everyone, hey, you drop a ball, that's on you, to where Ryan Tannehill never really had to play that role? Because we talk about, Arthur Smith being gone, how that played, how that could have played a role in Ryan Tannehill's regression last year. That could be the case, and also could be the case that there was nobody to hold them accountable because Arthur Smith was always the one holding everyone accountable, and he wasn't there anymore.
I wonder if it's that as much as I wonder if it was that the guys that were there didn't need it.
Maybe so.
The guys, when Tannehill took over on August 20th of 2019, Tannehill's guys were Jonnu Smith, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, Adam Humphries, Khalif Raymond, Anthony Ferguson. Ian, am I leaving anybody out?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, so those were his guys. And obviously, Adam Humphries was a good player for the 2 years that he was on the Titans. He could just never stay healthy. And so Adam Humphries, I don't think they ever had to tell Adam Humphries what to do other than to tell him not to get concussed, which not sure they really could have. That, again, Humphries'
not really in charge of that.
His biggest problem was his health.
Yeah.
So forget about that. Jonnu Smith was very much a big part of what Tannehill did here. He's not here anymore. Corey Davis had a good season in his walk year, but Davis was, for the most part, one of the really big team kind of guys they liked. Mm-hmm. He was like Robert Woods, but he wasn't maybe as dependable as I'm expecting Robert Woods to be this year. But Davis is gone. And A.J. made a wonderful catch at Eagles practice where Jalen Hurts threw a ball and A.J. kind of turned around and made an unbelievable catch on it. So A.J. is a special player, put him off to the side. And then even Raymond. Raymond's had a nice run of it with Jared Goff in Detroit, even though they freaking suck. Like, Raymond had a nice season last year. And so all those guys could kind of do it. I would agree Arthur's probably a big part of it, but maybe all those guys did what Tannehill wanted them to do anyway. And so then last year, with a big personality in Julio, or I should say a veteran personality in Julio Jones, new tight ends kind of in there, just a new picture. Westbrook Akina's a new guy. They were running out all kinds of new. Chester Rogers was a new guy. Marcus Johnson was a new guy. Des Fitzpatrick was a new guy. That maybe they didn't have the same thing that the other guys had. And now, to your point, if Arthur's not there, it's up to Tannehill to get them to it. But now that I think about it, as I mentioned all those guys, Julio was a veteran, but clearly he and Tannehill never got on the same page.
But I don't think it was necessarily a Ryan Tannehill not being vocal enough for Julio. Julio's been in this league long enough that I don't think he needs his quarterback to get on his ass if he does something wrong.
I would say that, except for
But also, I don't know.
What do they keep saying about Matt Ryan? They keep saying that's what Matt Ryan does. I'm going to guess that's what Matt Ryan did to Julio, that Matt Ryan is. And the quarterback is different than a coach. Because the receiver can look at a coach, and the receiver can say, screw you, coach. The receiver can't look at the quarterback and say, screw you, quarterback.
Yeah.
Because the quarterback is the one throwing the football. And all these guys get paid on how much they catch the football. So the receiver almost has to suck up to the quarterback. I would wonder what Derek would say about that, because Derek used to have really good relationships with his quarterback until he started playing with Mark Sanchez. But that he had really good relationships with his quarterbacks. You talk to Derek's coaches, they will tell you how much Derek demanded the football. I think that this is probably a part of it. I think that what I assume Joe Burrow does, because I'm convinced Joe Burrow coached that team in college,
he did.
And I'm convinced Joe Burrow coaches that team now. Zach Taylor is the offensive coordinator, and Joe Burrow is the head coach of the Bengals. I'm convinced of it. And so what Joe Burrow has naturally, what Peyton had naturally, what Brady, I believe, developed in large part because he had a defense where they had those guys in Lawyer Malloy and Mike Vrabel and Teddy Bruschi, and they had that kind of team. I'm going to guess that they've decided, the Titans have, that this is what Ryan Tannehill needs to be. And I'm for it. Like, this idea, I mean, I don't totally believe that a guy can start acting differently than he has acted in the past, and everybody's going to be completely receptive to it. I don't believe that the player's coach can come in year 3 and be Johnny Disciplinarian, and that's necessarily going to work. I think I've seen that in college football a lot, where a college coach is a really laissez-faire guy, and things don't go well, and the boosters get mad, and all of a sudden he's saying –
Dan Mullen.
Did Dan Mullen do that? Did he do a 180 on his personality? I thought he was kind of always a jerk.
He was just very, very laissez-faire. Like, do you remember, I don't believe it was last season, maybe the year before, when Florida was playing Missouri, and he started a fight that cleared the benches on both sides. He was just kind of running a circus at Florida.
I mean, I remember he and Derek Mason almost got in a fight when, not our Derek Mason, but the Vandy Derek Mason. Mm-hmm. They almost got in a fight here. I want to say in 2020 maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. I was at Costco when it happened, and I watched it on one of those TVs that they had at Costco. They always have all the TVs.
Like, selling?
Yeah, the display TV had the Vandy Florida game on it. And I remember seeing Derek Mason on the field. A player got hurt, and Dan Mullen was yelling from the sideline. And that's all I remember about Dan Mullen. But if Dan Mullen was very laissez-faire, and for the first 2 years, and now he's recruited guys who are juniors and sophomores, and they've got a year of being able to get away with whatever, and then coach comes in there and all of a sudden starts acting like a disciplinarian, that never works.
Right.
So I'm going to hope that with Tannehill, I think it's more of a minor change than it is a complete personality reversal for Tannehill. But I'm for it. I'm for it. And I think Vrabel, I think this is a big learning step for Vrabel. Just like when he didn't name a defensive coordinator in the 2020 season, and that became a story, and he didn't understand it. Like, he thought that this was going to be just like when he played with Belichick, and Belichick would not name coordinators, just like Belichick doesn't have an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator this year, and he was just going to do that to Shane Bowen and, kind of make him earn it. And then all of a sudden, when the defense didn't play well, every day it was something about, should he be defensive coordinator, who's calling the plays, who's running the defense, and finally at the end of the season, Vrabel was like, I didn't expect this to be that big of a problem, but he learned. Mm-hmm. And I wonder with this, Vrabel probably came in as coach and was like, I want the leaders to stand out, but I need everybody to do their job. I need everybody to do what they're supposed to do. I need the quarterback, just like those Malik mentor comments where I said, I'm not worried about Ryan Tannehill mentoring Malik Wilson. I'm worried about Ryan Tannehill beating the Colts. And I think that's how Vrabel approached everything of the coach's coach. The coaches are the ones that have to tell the players what to do. The players play, even the quarterback. But now, after having done this for a while and having had the experience, I think Vrabel looks at what he remembers of the position in his career, and he didn't just play with Brady. He played with Cordell Stewart in Pittsburgh, and he played, I believe, with Matt Castle in Kansas City. And so he's been around other quarterbacks, but obviously the quarterback that I would assume that he probably relates to the most is Brady, and we know how Brady is with those guys. And maybe he decided this year, I need Ryan because of the importance of that position. I can come in front of 53 guys and say, hey, everybody do your job. Nobody else has to do anything more than that, but not the quarterback.
No.
And I think Vrabel's now gotten to the point
captain of this ship,
where he has to ask the quarterback to do more, and now the quarterback is trying to do more. So with that, we'll get to your phones on at 615-737-1025. But there is one thing that I've noticed that kind of ties apart what I felt Friday and now what I'm feeling today after hearing what Tannehill said about being more or holding people accountable, and when I hear Vrabel talking about how it's more, what was the word he used that was important to me? Intentional?
Intentional.
About how it's intentional for Tannehill to be that way. There is one thing that I have noticed that I want to tie together, so we'll do that, and then we'll to your phone, 615-737-1025. Let me tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. It's back-to-school season, and Hiller is giving free backyard upgrades all month long. Tackle those necessary home system replacements in August to take advantage of these special deals while they last. You can get a free Yeti Tundra cooler with the purchase of a new tankless water heater, or a free Traeger wood pellet grill with the purchase of a new whole home generator. Hiller's also keeping you cool for back to school with special limited time financing promotion on HVAC replacements, where you can get 0% interest financing for up to 12 months on select new HVAC systems. There's no better time to make sure your family is comfortable for the last bit of warm weather and before things start to get cold. Hiller's work is backed by the Happy You'll Be Your Services Free guarantee, and I can tell you that because they were at my house yesterday, and they did a fantastic job. And trust me, I had an AC issue, and nobody wants to have an AC issue during the summer. Hiller came, took care of everything. It was fantastic. I love my guys at Hiller. They're proud supporters of the Nashville Predators, the Tennessee Volunteers, and the Vanderbilt Commodores. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hey, Preds fans.
Running across to make the save is Sarah.
You can now hear Nashville's best sports talk.
The backhander, he scores!
And every Predators game on 106.3 FM.
Well, that was a thing of beauty.
From downtown Nashville to Rutherford and Williamson counties.
Duchesne with the overtime winner.
Catch all the action on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey, Robbie Stanley here to tell you Twin Peaks will hook you up for your fantasy football draft party, which includes a draft board, player stickers, free Wi-Fi, a $50 bonus for the commish, and a $5 bonus card for each drafter. And when you're not on the clock, relax with one of Twin Peaks' refreshing 29-degree beers, or order for the whole team with a Peak sampler full of fan favorites, or indulge in shareables like the double-stack nachos, loaded fries, and multiple flavors of boneless wings. Call Twin Peaks in Cool Springs today to book your fantasy football draft party at 615-221-0869.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
But I do feel a lot more confident with him at quarterback going into this season than I did at the beginning of the year when I thought about, Brad Johnson had that Super Bowl run in 2002 with the Buccaneers. The next year they were 9-7. The year after that he made 4 starts. They were 0-4 and his career was over. And I'm not saying that Tannehill would have made 4 starts, because there's nobody on the roster who's going to take the job of Tannehill. But in training camp, I'm convinced Tannehill's confident this year. Just as I knew as soon as he threw that first ball in that Cincinnati game, I'm like, he's got no confidence. Whatever happens, please do not put the ball in his hands the rest of the game. Right now, I feel the exact opposite. And that reminds me of 2020, and it reminds me of 2019.
Tune in Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, homeowners and home buyers, listen up. Loan Pronto has 30-year fixed rates with APRs in the 4s and 15-year loans with APRs that start with 3. Hey, it's Willie Donick. Don't be confused by the media's hype about interest rates. At Loan Pronto, their rates have plummeted recently, and they're currently refinancing homeowners who locked in a 5 or 6% rate. Not all lender rates are created equal. Loan Pronto's rates are down big time, and you need to take advantage, whether you are buying, refinancing, getting cash out, or even if you just closed a few weeks ago. Call Loan Pronto today, and you could save tens of thousands of dollars. Loan Pronto can help keep more money in your pocket. Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN. Welcome into Chase, Willie, and D-Mace.
Stillman & Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
Scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Ryan, you've been through a lot of camps, obviously, in your career. Has there been anything different about this one for you personally? Anything that stood out? How you're playing, how you approach it, anything?
I don't know. I try to approach every day with a intention and a purpose to get as much as I can out of the day. You know, whether it's leading the guys, pushing the guys, pushing myself, trying to get something out of each and every day. I don't take for granted the opportunity to come out here and work and to get better and push the guys around me. And it's a lot of fun for me to have these conversations with our guys and then have it show up in a team rep or a 7-on-7 rep and we make the play. You know, that gives me a lot of energy, a lot of juice, just knowing that, hey, I see something on tape, I go to a guy, have the conversation, next time it comes up in a practice rep, we're able to hit it. So just seeing that happen several times over the course of this camp so far gives me a lot of confidence of the ability to be able to take that throughout the season, seeing something on tape and be able to translate it to a game rep and making a play.
What a weird answer, right? Like, he starts off with, Gentry has to ask the question, is this camp been any different? Because, again, everybody is now kind of wondering about, are you pushing the guys?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what's the more vocal? Clearly, you said no in the past to this, but we all kind of probably think you're lying. So now, what gives? That didn't all add up. And I say this because one thing that I take away is, you heard him right there talk about, you know, I get excited when I see something on tape, I take it to the guy, and then it works in practice, and I feel great about it. Here's the one thing I will say about this new and improved Tannehill. Whether it was Vrabel that told him, hey, man, you got to be tougher on your teammates. You have got to hold them more accountable. You got to be meaner to your teammates. Whether it was that or whether it was Tannehill and the therapy that he went through after the Cincinnati game, trying to heal his issues, maybe realizing that he felt regret about during last season not holding guys more accountable and going to Vrabel and saying, hey, I want to hold them more accountable. I'm leaving that out as a possibility. I don't really think it's really what happened, but I'm leaving it as a possibility. He has played better in training camp. I mean, there's no way around that. We can debate, and we've debated pretty much for the last 2 weeks about how much that actually matters. But while we talk about will the new and improved Tannehill, the more vocal Tannehill, will this work? I mean, through training camp, it looks like it's working. Now, we'll say this. Here's another little element to this. Apparently, he threw an interception yesterday.
Yes.
So remember how when I was telling people how much I love my friends at Hiller, that I had an AC issue. Hiller was at my home yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not married, so when something like that happens, or I have to wait for a FedEx package, I have to be here. So I was not at practice yesterday. So he's thrown 2 interceptions in practice. He's thrown probably 140 passes now. He's thrown 2 interceptions, both on days when I'm not there.
I'm not going to go that far.
I'm just saying.
I think we need a third day of you not there, and if he throws another interception, then I think we've got ourselves a theory. Do you think you make him nervous?
I don't know. I would assume that he does not even notice me on the sideline.
I think that you like to think that he might.
I'm just throwing it out there and then letting people decide for themselves what they think is the truth. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What do we have?
One texter texts in and says, vocally leading is overrated. Throw 3 touchdowns instead of 3 interceptions in the playoffs, and we win, and we move on to a home AFC championship game.
So that's spoken like a true moron, and I'll tell you why. Because the idea of, well, I don't care if you're a vocal leader or not, I just want to see you win. Right. And I don't care if Ryan Tannehill goes to Golden Corral and stuffs himself full of Oreo pie every night. I just want to see him win, too. But the reality is, if he goes and eats Oreo pie every night, even though Oreo pie is delicious, and I don't even know if Golden Corral carries it because I don't think I've been to Golden Corral.
I don't think I've ever been to a Golden Corral.
No disrespect to Golden Corral.
Nope.
We went there when I was in college once, and there was a whole story behind it. But anywho.
Did it blow your mind?
No, I honestly didn't really like it, but that's okay. But, again, the Oreo pie at Golden Corral, but he can't be a great quarterback if he goes every night to Golden Corral and stuffs his face with Oreo pie. It's not going to work. So this idea of I don't care if he's a vocal leader, well, if he's a vocal leader, and by being a vocal leader, Nick Westbrook-Akina, and I don't know, I was not one of these Tannehill defenders, as the record will state, I was not one of these Tannehill defenders after the Cincinnati game, but what if Julio didn't run the right route? What if Westbrook-Akina didn't run the right depth? What if the protection, the slot, whatever? I don't know. If that's the case, that's where Tannehill has to tell everybody where to be and make sure that they are where they are. And if he doesn't trust that a guy will be where the guy's not supposed to be, then Tannehill has to go to Vrabel. Tannehill has to go to the receiver, and he has to say, if you don't do what I tell you to do, your ass will be on the bench because I'll walk up to Vrabel and I'll say, I'm not throwing that guy the ball. Ryan Tannehill has more leverage than anybody else when it comes to that because he decides who gets the ball. There's a story that came out years ago about Brady, and Mike Vrabel was quoted in the story. And as the story goes, Vrabel was playing tight end for the Patriots, and Brady, it was a practice play or something, and Vrabel was wide open, and Vrabel was jumping up and down and doing a jumping jack in the end zone, calling for the ball, yelling, ball, 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 whatever. And as Vrabel tells the story, and I'm paraphrasing here, but as Vrabel tells the story, Brady pulled him aside and said, hey, Mikey, I'm the quarterback. I know who's open. If you ever act like that again, I will never throw you another ball.
Yes, sir.
And if that happens, then when the Titans get into these situations in the war, then the soldiers that are out there will probably act accordingly because it's been ingrained in them that if I don't do what Tannehill wants me to do, he's not going to trust me and he's not going to throw me the ball. And that should go for everybody. Ryan Tannehill should not look at Treylon Burks and have to say to himself, I need to get on his level to get him the ball. No. Treylon Burks needs to get on Ryan Tannehill's level so that Ryan Tannehill can trust him. And again, I think this is Vrabel giving Tannehill more authority over the team, more ownership over the team, because I don't think Vrabel believes he can win if Ryan Tannehill doesn't have, kind of that selfishness in him of get that guy off my football field. And I think that that's what Vrabel's decided from here. So the texter can say, I only care about results. One affects the other, and that's why it's important.
But I do wonder, and I don't really know how much it matters, but I do think that there's an importance of authenticity here of who drove this decision to be a more vocal leader. Was it Tannehill saying to himself, I need to do this for my team? Or was that Vrabel going to Tannehill and saying, this is what we need from you?
What do you think?
I think it was Tannehill doing it to himself.
Ian, what do you think?
I don't know. I think part of it has to do with just the new wide receiver turnover and how it went last year, and maybe just a little bit of back and forth feedback on how we think maybe we can get more on the same page.
Neither of y'all's answers are bad. I disagree with both of you.
You think it was Vrabel?
I think it's Vrabel.
But isn't there an element there that, okay, Vrabel's asking Tannehill to do something that he just isn't comfortable doing, and maybe he is comfortable doing it, and he's just never done it in the past. But that would concern me.
Isn't the whole point of a coach, though, to get the players to do things that they're not comfortable doing?
But on a physical level, on a leadership level, couldn't that come off as incredibly inauthentic? Where Tannehill gets on to guys and they're like, you know what, dude, I don't need that from you.
Like, I know that's not who you are.
Yes.
Whereas, like, Peyton Manning, I know that's how you are.
Yes, and I don't want to disappoint you.
Like, I know the story of Gary Kubiak watching the indoor practice camera when Peyton Manning was benched for Brock Osweiler, and Peyton was getting his throws in before the game because he wanted to stay on the schedule of throwing, 45 passes or whatever. And Peyton looked up at the camera and gave Gary Kubiak a middle finger, and it's like that's Peyton.
Yeah.
That's who he is. If Tannehill were to turn around and to look up at the camera and give Vrabel a middle finger, I mean, I think Vrabel would like it. Like, I think Vrabel would be like, hey, that's my guy right there.
But he would never do that.
Yeah.
I don't see him doing that.
I'm telling you, I've been obsessed with this Derek Jeter documentary. Derek Jeter's the one guy that stood up to George Steinbrenner because Derek Jeter was the one guy who could. And then when Steinbrenner died, Derek Jeter said that his relationship with Steinbrenner was, Steinbrenner, if he thought he could walk all over you, he would. And that he didn't think that he could walk all over Jeter, and that was how they got that relationship. So I hear you. If these guys think they can walk all over Tannehill, and they've been around Tannehill for a couple of years, then this isn't going to change anything. But if these guys maybe
there's enough fresh faces in this locker room that Tannehill could play that whole I'm going to a new school card.
And who's the other guy in the equation as far as receiver versus quarterback? Who's the guy what side is Vrabel taking? Tannehill's.
Yeah.
615-737-1025. And Vrabel doesn't have to change how he acts because he's always been an a-hole. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones again from practice today. Stillman and company rocking and rolling right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hey everybody, Willie Donick here to tell you about Trivia Night for Stars. Think you're pretty smart? Well, come on out Wednesday, August 24th to Boom Bars East and test your trivia skills. I'll be your trivia master. We'll have sports questions, some non-sports questions, and some great prizes. It's brought to you by Nerdy Talk, and all proceeds support Stars and the hope, health, and connection of young people in our community. Register your team of no more than 4 and let the competition begin. Go to starsnashville.org to officially sign up. That's starsnashville.org. See you on August 24th at Boom Bars East.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bobus. High temperatures here on this Monday, right near 90 degrees. Humidity makes us feel like we're in the middle 90s and a few isolated showers and weak thunderstorms this afternoon. No worries about severe weather to begin the new week.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face truck today.
Don't be surprised this week to see other jewelry store owners shopping at Genesis Diamonds. They'll be taking advantage of Genesis' most aggressive offer ever. All GIA diamond engagement rings marked down an extra 20% below Genesis' everyday price.
That's right. The vault is open, and we're selling the finest handcrafted diamond rings at rock bottom prices. Now for a very limited time.
The GIA is the world standard in diamond grading, certifying accuracy and documenting quality, so you can buy with confidence.
Every Genesis engagement ring is included in this event, from a half carat up to 20 carat stones. All shapes, rounds, princess cuts, emerald cuts, cushion cuts, ovals.
There has never been a better time to get an extreme value price on a GIA certified diamond, perfectly set in a gorgeous engagement ring. Hurry in for best selection. It's Genesis Diamonds GIA Diamond Extravaganza.
Save an extra 20% on these rare, precious diamond rings, now for a limited time. One per customer, please.
Exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Every search you make, every click you take, they'll be watching you.
Tired of companies like Google and Facebook watching everything you do online? There's actually a simple solution. DuckDuckGo. It's an all-in-one privacy app with a built-in private search engine, web browser, one-click data clearing, email protection, and more, all for free. Download the app today and get the most comprehensive privacy protection with a push of a button. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
Robbie Stanley.
To avoid non-contact injuries and not repeat last year,
Joe Rexrode.
Just wait until next year's national TV schedule comes out.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
How's Dylan Radins improved over the last 10 days in this training camp?
Well, he's competing. He's competing, and he understands that he's in there with Nick, and we're trying to give both those guys an opportunity to establish the role that we talked about, and then help develop our team and build our team. And I see him doing a better job at the top of the pocket, where some of these guys counter back in, and he's really focused on that. I think that his knowledge in our system is really expanded, and just need to continue to build and develop, and be a good opportunity to continue to work, and we got a game against a different opponent, so that's always a challenge up front. You've been going against the same guy for quite a while.
There you go. That was Vrabel talking about the right tackle position. The Titans put out an unofficial depth chart. I don't know if you saw it, but the word unofficial was in big, bold letters.
Just to let everyone know.
Just so everyone. And
Don't
they
get
have
twisted.
at right tackle Dylan Radens / Nicholas Petit-Ferrer. Right now, my money's on Petit-Ferrer. And I love when Vrabel says he's competing. He's got a good personality. With that, back to your phone, 615-737-1025. What do we have in the text line?
He's a really nice guy.
He's a good guy. He's competing.
Yeah.
Competing.
Andrew texts in and says a lot of us defended Ryan Tannehill last year by pointing out what junk receivers he had to work with. Hopefully he's decided he won't let his receivers suck and be unreliable this year.
So, I mean, here's the thing. I could make the argument on paper that the Titans had a better receiving core last year than they did this year. Now, it's easy to say that that Julio got hurt last year and didn't play, but you all weren't arguing that this time last year. We were. But you all weren't, and people were telling me this time last year that Ferkser was going to be like the missing link for this group and that all those things were going to be okay. But, again, for the average fan, I think there was more talk about A.J. Brown, Julio Jones than there is Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Kyle Phillips, and Racey McMath, because that's what it is right now. And maybe one other guy makes the team, but I'm not even sure that other guy's all that important. Those are Tannehill's receivers. So, I can make the argument that those guys really aren't all that good and that it's not going to – but I do think the holding accountable, like use every option available if you have to, and that is where Tannehill is that I feel like he has to use every option that is available to him, and telling every single one of those guys where to be and when to be there is the most important thing. And so, again, he reamed out, supposedly. I wasn't there, so I didn't see it, but Joe talked about this the other day. He reamed out Kyle Phillips at practice last week, which is good.
Who had a couple nice catches today.
And had a couple nice catches and got a couple pluses. And he said that he is pushing the guys harder this year. Tannehill is, which is good. And Tannehill's performance so far at training camp, in my opinion, has been good. So with that, I feel personally like that they may be onto something. If Tannehill was stinking it up, I would say that changing his personality means nothing. He's not stinking it up. And again, the only thing that matters are the games. I know. But all I can go off of is what I'm looking at right now. What I'm looking at right now, it's different. It's good different. It's better than bad different. It's better than the same different. This is good different. What's next?
Taylor texts in and says, if Tannehill balls out this year, will he be the quarterback in 2023? Of course,
yes.
Contingent, and if they feel Malik is ready to start.
So I believe Tannehill will be the quarterback in 2023 if he balls out this year, which is a huge if. It is a big asterisk. It is the opposite of the if in the O.J. Simpson novel, If I Did It, in which they hide the if now that Ron Goldman's family owns that book. They make the if so tiny on the cover, so it just says, I did it, and you have to go searching like a Where's Waldo book for the if.
I think everyone feels pretty confident that he did do it.
He did it. It's the opposite of that. So the big if from the texter's point of view is if Tannehill balls out, then Tannehill will be the quarterback in 2023. Look, Malik is making progress. People got so mad at me the other day. Oh, my God, did they get mad at me when I talked about how Malik stinks right now. And he does. And you all will see on Thursday. You will see some good things and you will see some bad things. I am convinced of it, that Malik will probably play 3/4 of the game on Thursday against Baltimore, and you all will see what we see in practice, which is very athletic, likes to run the football. I think they're going to really get on him about not taking any hits because it's easy. Now, he has slid in practice, which is good, but it's easy to tell him to slide. And when you're wearing the red, in his case, wearing the red jersey, it's a lot easier than you're out there against those Raven third stringers who would love to end up on SportsCenter for knocking Malik Willis out. So, again, you, the fans, will see what we've seen at practice, which is sometimes Malik pumps a rocket in there. Mm-hmm. And sometimes Malik throws it 5 feet behind the guy, and he's turning his head, and the other DB is going to come and might take his head off. So there's a lot of bad there with Malik right now. He is getting better. He has gotten better from the first week of practice to right now. But I don't foresee Malik being able to be so good next year that he would be willing, that he'd be ready to take Tannehill's position, especially if Tannehill plays well. You know, the whole Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo thing, using that as a comparison.
Yeah.
Jimmy didn't play well last year. People saw the 49ers get to the NFC Championship game, so they assumed that Jimmy played well last year, but Jimmy did not play well last year. And that's why it's easy for them to go to Lance. Whereas if Jimmy did play well, like the year that Drew Brees played well for the Chargers after they had drafted Phillip Rivers, it's very difficult to decide what to do. And if Brees didn't tear his rotator cuff or whatever it was, I think there's a pretty good chance the Chargers would have traded Rivers and stayed with Brees. Because, again, Brees, as soon as they brought Rivers in, Brees completely did a 180 and played great football until he got hurt. Then he got hurt. Nick Saban flunked his physical, didn't want him, decided to go with Dante Culpepper instead. New Orleans signed him. The rest is history. He'll be in Canton in 4 years. What's next?
Tyler checks in and says, I don't think that the Titans are dead set on Aaron Brewer. Is it possible that Ravens might move to left guard?
No, I think the Titans are dead set on Brewer. I think the Titans are. This is my opinion. Not that I have.
Are they dead set on Brewer, or do they not have another option?
I think there's probably a little truth in that, but I think that they're dead set on Brewer. And I'm not saying I love it. Who's week one? The Giants. I don't even know a single defensive lineman on the Giants. We'll get to the Giants in a second. I'm not sure I know a single defensive lineman on the Giants. I'm sure that is Leonard Williams on the Giants, Ian?
He was last year. Let me double check.
I mean, I don't know who's on their defensive line or anything like that. We'll learn real early because Ed Oliver and the Buffalo Bills are week 2. So we'll learn if this 280-pound, and I think I'm being generous.
He still is, yes. Him and Dexter Lawrence, looks like, are the two main starters on the defensive line.
Okay, like that could give us a little bit of a tell. Dexter Lawrence has actually been an okay player, since he came out from Clemson. Certainly much better than DeAndre Baker, their other first-round pick that year, who just got cut.
And they have Azeez Ojulari as well as their edge guy.
Is he any good?
I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot of Giants last year. I mean, TD loved him. Teron coming out of the draft loved Azeez Ojulari, but I don't know.
But he dropped for some reason.
He went
I thought it was a knee injury.
He went in the second round for sure.
Like deep in the second round.
Yeah.
Like we were
Was it an injury thing?
I thought it was a knee injury.
Maybe a knee injury.
Here's the problem with the Giants. And again, not to jump the gun because we will get to the Giants in 5 minutes because apparently they're making some wild headlines and they are the Titans' first opponent. But I can't tell you who's good on that team or who's bad on that team because I never watched that team.
I don't want to watch that team.
There's
if we're going to be completely honest.
There's no game that they play. Like I cannot tell you about them. I cannot tell you about Washington.
No.
I cannot tell you about the Chicago Bears. I cannot tell you about who else sucks and is totally irrelevant.
I feel like I could tell you about the Jets, but not because I want to pay attention to the Jets.
Well, they killed the Titans.
Yeah.
Trying to think. I don't know. Anywho, those kind of teams I can't tell you much about because I just don't know. Whereas I have pretty strong opinions about the Dallas Cowboys. Right? Like, I know about the Bengals. I know about them. The Lions are freaking awful. I mean, when they put the Lions and the Bears on Thanksgiving last year and Andy Dalton was quarterbacking
it's such a snooze fest.
And yet,
I think that's like sacrilegious to the holiday of Thanksgiving and the tradition of Thanksgiving in football.
The ratings for that.
On a day that's pretty much dedicated to football. And also, like your family
ratings
and
were
that
so
stuff.
Big. Speaking of the Giants, they are the Titans' week 1 opponent. And they have been making some headlines. And I have a feeling about this game that I know that if Floyd was here with us today to celebrate his 74th birthday, he would not want to hear it, but I'm thinking it. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
You watch the game.
Line to left, coming on Newstrom. Base hit, sounds win.
We talk the game.
But they knew he'd be really good. Well, if they don't make that move, they don't win those championships.
We are the game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen. 312 Pizza Company is Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria, and they're now hiring. Work for a family-owned business and be a part of their incredible team. 312 Pizza Company is hiring for all positions, including host, waitstaff, bartenders, cooks, and more. 312 Pizza Company offers health insurance and paid time off to full-time employees. Contact Kimberly at 615-730-7888 or email at contact@312pizzaco.com. 312 is an equal opportunity employer.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
Right now, I'd say Burks is doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I think Okonkwo is doing a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
McCreary is doing a great job. Kyle Phillips, I'm unsure of. So the way I labeled it was this. You tell me if you think you've seen differently. I believe that Burks, McCreary, and Okonkwo are ready to play in the NFL right now. Now, Okonkwo's blocking, I believe, needs a lot of work, but
in the passing game, Chig looks ready to hop in.
I'm going to put him on the field before I put Jeff Swinger.
Yes.
So I think those three guys are ready. You know, if they played a game tomorrow and Traylon Burks started at wide receiver and Roger McCreary started at corner and Chig Okonkwo was the second tight end, I'd be fine with it.
Tune in Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey guys, Jeremy here, General Manager at Blend Bar with Davidoff Cigars. We are the go-to spot in Nashville for the best old-fashioned, a nice relaxing cigar, and lots of high-end spirits and wine. Are cigars not your thing? No problem. We have the best ventilation system in the industry that provides a fresh, clean atmosphere for you and your friends. We are here to provide you a trendy, upscale experience in the heart of downtown. Check us out at 508 Church Street. Blend Bar with Davidoff Cigars. Luxury redefined.
Nothing makes one feel better than the ability to give to someone in need. You have the power to give the most important gift of all, the gift of life, with a donation of your blood. Supplies are desperately low in our area, and your help is needed. Blood Assurance is a nonprofit community blood center that supplies our Middle Tennessee area hospitals. Please find it in your heart to donate. Be someone's hero today. Go to bloodassurance.org to find a location or blood drive near you. That's bloodassurance.org. Give blood, give local, save lives with Blood Assurance.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Chase Elliott scores the win in the Ally 400 at the Nashville Super Speedway.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We got pass rushers.
Awesome game.
Checkered flag in the air. The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live, thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live in the Hillside Medical Game Studios. So I'm just going to read you a headline because today is game week for the Titans. By the way, we made it to game week, which is good for us, but it's game week for the Titans against the Ravens. Don't know how excited I am of this game week of the Titans against the Ravens.
Why?
Because none of the good players are going to play except for Traylon Burks and maybe Caleb Farley.
But it might be kind of nice to see, some of these rookies, see what they can do.
No, it'll be nice to watch a game. Yeah. It will be nice to watch. I am not poo-pooing Thursday night's football game because I will be watching Thursday night's football game, and then Friday I will be talking for 4 hours about Thursday night's football game. So I am not poo-pooing Thursday's game. But game is kind of a loose term. I think there's more.
It's like a warm-up to real football.
Yes. There will be more important stuff for me out of the practices against Tampa Bay the next week when Tom Brady is going against the Titans' first-team defense or Ryan Tannehill is going against C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Sean Murphy-Bunting. No, C.J. Gardner-Johnson with the Saints. Sean Murphy-Bunting or Winfield or that crew. So, anywho, one thing I have been thinking about is – like Derrick Henry today had his press conference, and it was like eye-priming, boring, because Derek doesn't practice.
And he speaks so quietly that it's what he's saying isn't, it's not, you're not getting a lot out of it. And he says it so quietly that I almost found myself just dozing off a little bit. Just,
yeah, Derek,
mine's fleeting a little bit because I don't know what you're saying.
Derek's asked these questions about camp, but Derek doesn't even practice. So what is it, hey, Derek, we've already asked him for 3 years in a row. Do you think you need the training camp reps? Oh, yeah, we got a plan, Vrabel's plan. We just go with Vrabel's plan. We go there, all right. You excited for the preseason game to, get out there, go watch them play a little bit. So excited for the preseason game that you're not going to play in, or the other preseason games you're not going to play in, or the preseason practices against the other teams you're not going to practice in, so it's just, that's kind of how I feel about it. But I say all of this because I do look at the first game of the schedule, and it's the Giants. And anybody can win in the NFL. Those are NFL players against NFL players. But apparently Giants camp is an a disaster.
I've heard that it's train wreck after train wreck.
I mean, and I do wonder, are the Titans going to get a practice game in week 1 against the Giants? Because the Giants are so bad that then this idea, who's going to play right tackle? Well, let's say it's Petit Ferrer. Well, that's good, because then he'll get to go up against the Giants in the first week when the Giants are trying hard. And Petit Ferrer, if he stinks it up, then they can figure something out before it's Von Miller in week 2.
I know, I hear you, and anybody can win any week in the NFL. But I looked to the Jets game last year and the Texans game last year.
I'm not saying the Titans
teams that
players,
were bad.
I'm not saying the players cannot play like it's an important game.
I know, but I'm going in even our own mindsets. Because the reality of what the Jets and the Texans were last year was bad.
Who picked the Jets?
You did.
I saw it coming. So here's the headline of the New York Post, their breakdown of the Giants. This is how bad the Giants are. And not only are the Giants bad, I feel so bad for Daniel Jones, because I don't think Daniel Jones ever got a chance. Daniel Jones was drafted the last year that Pat Shurmur was the coach, and Eli Manning was the quarterback, so Eli was the guy. In the midseason, they moved off of Eli, and they went to Daniel Jones. Then they fired Pat Shurmur. So Daniel Jones is a rookie, doesn't get to learn, and then they move the coach out. They bring in Joe Judge, who doesn't know if it's Tuesday or Wednesday, and is their head coach. And so now Daniel Jones is stuck with that. Then it's COVID. His star running back's never healthy. All of his linemen that they draft, because this Gettleman's terrible, they all stink. And Daniel Jones is back there for 2 years getting killed, and Saquon's not there to help him. And they signed him a receiver, Kenny Golladay, who has a bum hip, and so he can't play. And so then this year, Daniel Jones gets a new coach, and so in comes Brian Daboll, and Brian Daboll probably doesn't want Daniel Jones, and so he's going to basically sacrifice him to the Lamb, and they'll be terrible so they can get their good quarterback next year in the first round of the draft. And Brian Daboll, a Nick Saban guy at Alabama, wouldn't surprise me to see him try to line up to get Bryce Young. And so here's the headline from the New York Post. This is today, as of 2:48 p.m. Headline: Tyrod Taylor gets first rep with Daniel Jones and Giant starters during Daniel Jones' rough day. They have, I guess, the good and the bad in this. The good: quote, number 2 quarterback Tyrod Taylor and wide receiver Darius Slayton have strong chemistry after training together in Atlanta for multiple off seasons. Bad: quote, it was a brutal day for the Giants' passing attack, marked by 2 interceptions from Daniel Jones, Xavier McKinney, and Adoree Jackson. Hey, way to go, Adoree.
Hey.
Jones was off the mark, throwing to all levels in team drills. The timing with Kadarius Toney, who they already want to get rid of, by the way, who they drafted last year in the first round out of Florida. They already want to get rid of Toney.
Doesn't he have a terrible attitude?
Supposedly. The timing with Kadarius Toney was out of sync and led to a drop, and even went to the sideline for one snap after a busted play, leading to Taylor's first rep with the starters all camp. So Brian Daboll's already sick of Daniel Jones in training camp. So again, not to poo-poo this Ravens preseason game, and not to tell you not to watch the preseason, because let's not kid ourselves.
We're all
going to watch the preseason. So we're all going to watch preseason, but is that Giant game really a preseason game, given how bad the Giants apparently are in training camp?
I think that the Titans have been given a gift with this schedule. I mean, the schedule's hard. I mean, you play the Bills and the Chiefs
Sure.
and the Packers. You don't play that kind of schedule having an easy schedule. But I think that if there's any gift that they've been given, it's the first game being against a team that kind of seems like it's a little bit of a dumpster fire this offseason.
I mean, in this
So
society,
if they need a week to afford themselves of let's knock some rust off, let's get our feet underneath us, the Giants are a good team to be able to do it against.
2020, there was no preseason because of COVID, and it was the rules were very different even for what teams were allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the Titans got a gift on the front end of the schedule that they went on the road to the crummy Broncos, and they beat them by a field goal. And then they hosted the crummy Jags, and they beat them by a field goal. And they went on the road to the crummy Vikings, and they beat them by a field goal. And then they smoked Buffalo. But I say all of this because, they needed those 3 practice games at the beginning because they didn't have any real games, and they went down to the wire against these horrible teams. And this year, Buffalo's week 2, and the Raiders, who might be good this year, are week 3. And Indianapolis is somewhere in there. Maybe Indy's week 3 and the Raiders are week 4, but it's some combination like that. And Derrick Henry's not going to play a single down in the preseason. He doesn't get any practice. He's not even on the practice field outside of the, where he's running over the bag. He's not even on the practice field at all when it comes to practice with the pads on. So how's Derrick Henry going to get some reps at his age to get ready for the season when Derrick needs the ball in order to be Derrick? It's like, well, you get to play the Giants week 1. And again, every year, any team is capable of making that surprise run to the Super Bowl, just like Cincinnati last year. Any quarterback has the possibility to completely turn it around and turn their career around, just like Steve Young did when he left Tampa Bay and he went to San Francisco. Daniel Jones, in theory with Brian Daboll, could be doing that. When a team is struggling at practice, that could sometimes be a sign of them trying to work the kinks out. And then all of a sudden, they did it all in practice. So then by the time the games start, all those kinks are worked out and everything's good. Also, bad offense could mean good defense for the Giants. But I tell you, it sounds like A, the Giants stink. B, the Giants are practicing terrible. C, Daniel Jones is awful. And more importantly, the coach has no skin in them stinking. If the Giants are bad this year, Brian Daboll can just blame the other guy.
His job will be fine.
Nope. And so then he and Joe Schoen, the general manager from the Bills, they can put their heads together and say, all right, now let's get rid of this dead weight, get in these new players, let's bring in a good culture, let's whatever. But I have to be honest with you, I'm a little more worried about Tyrod Taylor starting week 1 than I am Daniel Jones.
I mean, they're both not very good.
I know, but Tyrod's coming here and beating the Titans multiple times. Now, he's beaten some bad Titan teams, but he has beaten the Titans. So with that,
I'm not overly concerned either way, but of course, there's always that worry of anything can happen in the NFL.
So we'll get your thoughts on it, 615-737-1025, and I heard them talking about this today. This could be a wild card for the Giants that might change our opinions. Are we getting too cocky on August 8th about a game that is more than a month away? We'll get into that with your phone, 615-737-1025, and your Titans practice thoughts in there as well. Stillman & Company right here, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
they're still in good shape to make the playoffs.
And I-840.
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
There's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
And he has added players that do fit.
What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams.
This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have 2 choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
Make your next hire fast with Indeed. Their end-to-end hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Is your mattress keeping you up all night? Tossing and turning? Needing a new mattress but don't know where to go? Well, shop at Social Furniture today, where they sell comfort. They have all of the top brands like Sealy, Stearns & Foster's, Simmons, Serta, and Purple Mattress. Social Furniture offers sofa beds, loft beds, twin beds, queen beds, king beds, kids beds, and beds for your whole family. There's no waiting, and they have same-day delivery. Visit Social Furniture in West Nashville at 5412 Charlotte Avenue. Forget the big box store. Shop local. Shop social.
If you missed the latest on Chase, Willie, and D-Mace.
He's rattled. The Mets took 4 out of 5. Edwin Diaz saved 3 out of the 5 games.
The rookie producer's trolling me now. Come on now.
That's tough. That's tough. Trolling the suit, that takes guts as a rookie.
I know. We got to use
rookie producer.
Got to use a mound visit. Ladarius got to come out and make sure I'm all right. You good, man? You good? Can you keep going? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Come on, let's go. Give me the pitch. Let's go. But we're live here at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park.
Oh, we're live. We've just been showered with grass.
Showered with grass.
Yeah, we're live.
Got the blowers here. Stillman and Company coming up here in just a few minutes. Jared heard something from Ryan Tannehill today that he really liked. You will hear that coming up at 2 o'clock. But the unofficial depth chart has come out for the Titans. And on the offensive side of the ball, Dylan Radins with a slash listed at right tackle. Dylan Radins, and then Nicholas Petit-Frere, and then Aaron Brewer as the left guard.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
Don't be surprised this week to see other jewelry store owners shopping at Genesis Diamonds. They'll be taking advantage of Genesis' most aggressive offer ever. All GIA diamond engagement rings marked down an extra 20% below Genesis' everyday price.
That's right. The vault is open, and we're selling the finest handcrafted diamond rings at rock bottom prices. Now for a very limited time.
The GIA is the world standard in diamond grading, certifying accuracy and documenting quality, so you can buy with confidence.
Every Genesis engagement ring is included in this event, from a half carat up to 20 carat stones, all shapes, rounds, princess cuts, emerald cuts, cushion cuts, ovals.
There has never been a better time to get an extreme value price on a GIA certified diamond, perfectly set in a gorgeous engagement ring. Hurry in for best selection. It's Genesis Diamonds GIA Diamond Extravaganza.
Save an extra 20% on these rare, precious diamond rings, now for a limited time. One per customer, please.
Exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
It's on. It's happening. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way. I'm watching the game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
The game that we get Thursday night is Giants and Patriots, and both teams had terrible reports come out this weekend. So
Daniel Jones. Hey, that rep looked bad. Did you see that? That's where the right.
Yeah, but aren't people also saying the route was a bit
D-Butt.
shoddy?
Yeah, D-Butt kind of went to the defense of Daniel Jones, was like, it was a throwaway. I think it clearly was a throwaway. Lazy rat. You know, if that guy comes out of his stem a little bit harder, probably closer there. So not that big of a deal, but it's hard not to watch that and go, Daniel Jones stinks.
I saw a 30-second
once again,
one.
got to be impartial. Got to be impartial because we don't
We hear
know.
Saquon's back. We hear Saquon looks great, right?
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line gave him time, so that's good.
It's a scary rep right there, too. You're throwing in the red zone. You throw that thing late or whatever, boom, pick six.
Pick six. And, I mean, Mike Lombardi, he quotes Radius and said, bring in Jimmy G. Because Daboll was in New England, right?
Yes. Yep.
Whenever Jimmy G was up there. So if you have any questions at all right now, and you're any of these teams, why not? Now, is Daniel Jones have the ability to become Josh Allen with Daboll? We shall see. But also, if a rep keeps going out like that, it's going to be hard for the Giants fans not to be like, we suck again. This guy is the worst. That is the truth. And again, today, that was over the weekend. That was Pat McAfee today on the Pat McAfee Show. This is before the news came out that at Giants camp, again, the Titans' week 1 opponent, that Daniel Jones was benched for Tyrod Taylor. Benched in training camp. Again, I'm more worried about Tyrod Taylor than I am Daniel Jones.
But that's also not really saying much.
That I'm not worried about Daniel Jones?
But you're more worried about Tyrod Taylor than you are Daniel Jones, because how worried are you about Daniel Jones?
Here's the thing about Daniel Jones. And this is just my personal, this might tell you more about how screwed up my life is than anything else.
Oh, God.
When I sat up there on that draft stage, and the first shocker of the night was Cleveland Farrell at 4th overall to the Raiders, which was a terrible pick. The second shock was Daniel Jones at 6 to the Giants. And I remember because we had the ESPN, we were doing the draft show, me, Floyd, Derek, and we were doing the draft show but we had the picks and like the feeds ahead of time because the video board by us was one of those video boards downtown, and it would flash as Goodell was talking. So we would know who the pick is about a split second before everybody else. And I had to tell Derek to stop like reacting in live time when he would see the board flash, because the radio audience had not heard who the pick was. So we see the board flash, and Derek's like, oh, no, oh, God. And I'm like, Derek, like, you can't do that. And when Daniel Jones flashed up on that board, I was like, oh, my God, I can't believe it. Oh,
you can't
God.
even hold in your emotion.
But this was back in the day when I used to have opinions on quarterbacks in the draft because I, heard what somebody else said and then just thought, yep, and so I thought the Daniel Jones thing was crazy. And so they took him.
Well, it was.
It was. So they took him, and then they screwed everything up on his, as he has been a quarterback. I mean, I'm not sure that Joe Montana in his prime could go to that Giant team and make a difference. They're so bad. And now here he is getting benched in practice and how bad it is, and the Titans get him week 1. So that being said, every time I badmouth Daniel Jones, which isn't very often because we don't talk about Daniel Jones much.
I don't really want to talk about Daniel Jones that
no,
much.
But he is week 1. So
maybe, or it's Tyrod Taylor,
or Tyrod Taylor, or Jimmy G.
You never know.
Or Jimmy G. But as often as we go there or talk about this stuff, the more I want to defend Daniel Jones because I don't feel it was Daniel Jones' fault. But that doesn't matter because if Daniel Jones stinks, then Daniel Jones stinks. Kind of like Sam Darnold. I don't think it's Sam Darnold's fault that Sam Darnold stinks. But at the end of the day, Sam Darnold stinks.
But it's like with Trevor Lawrence, if he stinks his first year, I don't blame Trevor Lawrence for stinking. I blame the Jacksonville Jaguars for making their quarterback stink.
If Trevor Lawrence stinks, like if he doesn't make it, do you blame Trevor Lawrence or do you blame the crap hole organization that he went to?
It depends on what the Doug Peterson era can bring to Jacksonville, but right now where it stands, I tend to lean that I blame the Jacksonville Jaguars for being an awful organization.
That's what I'm saying.
But because I know that Trevor Lawrence can be good. I didn't watch much Duke football, but I can't imagine that Daniel Jones was some sort of a Heisman candidate in his time at Duke.
I know, but even good quarterbacks that are good in college go to the NFL sometimes and stink.
Yeah, that is true. But when you're a good quarterback, and I know you were good, and you went to multiple national championships, won one of them, and were a Heisman finalist multiple times, and then you go to an organization that I know is crap, and you are crap at that organization, I have to blame the crap organization.
Oh, I agree, but I watched Matt Leinart. He sucked in the NFL, and Matt Leinart was freaking awesome in college.
Yeah.
Like Matt Leinart might be one of the Brady Quinn freaking sucked in the NFL. And he was a great quarterback, and now they're doing pregame shows on Fox. Like now, again, Leinart, like the Brady Quinn thing didn't surprise me. I don't know why. Again, I was in high school when these guys played college football, but Leinart, I mean, I thought Matt Leinart.
I mean, Leinart was a Heisman finalist twice.
I think he won one, and then I think he was a finalist another year.
Or did he win? Did he win the year before Reggie won?
Yeah, so I think he won that year.
And then was a finalist the year that Reggie won.
Where they smoked Oklahoma in the championship game.
And
then
Vince
the
Young.
next year, they lost to Texas.
Yes.
In the championship game.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Adam in Portland. Phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam in Portland's been waiting patiently on the Giants. Give me your Giants take, Adam.
I feel like we can't overlook them, man. Like, we got smoked. And I know the Cardinals were better last year than the Giants are. Anybody's better than the Giants are. But it's week 1. You got blown out at home. I had to stand an hour and a half in the heat waiting on an Uber after that loss, just surrounded by Cardinal fans, miserable. And I don't want to feel like that again week 1. So that's one, is don't overlook them. We got the Bills week 2. So you can't overlook the Giants looking at the Bills. Number 2, Jared, and I know you don't like 2 points. You pull from Pat McAfee too much. I really hate that guy, and I don't know if I've ever publicly said that. I just hate him. Like, he's Trent Dilfer to me. He's a kicker, Trent Dilfer. He means nothing to me. Why? Because he's sleeveless and got attitude. I got to care about what this guy's got to say. He just thinks he's just smug, dude. I just can't stand listening to him.
What's your beef with McAfee?
I can't.
Is it what he said at the draft when it was here in Nashville and he antagonized all those Titan fans?
100%. That is
okay.
Like he's all over the Colts all the time. It's so biased.
Well, he played for the Colts.
I would fight him.
He's
if
a
I seen him in
Colt
public,
fan.
I would probably fight him. Yeah,
He's
I
a
would
Colt
probably fight him
fan.
if I seen him, Jerry.
Adam, I appreciate your call. I have no beef with Pat McAfee.
I think he's funny.
I like McAfee. I like
he's
the
not going to be my
McAfee show.
end-all, be-all for football takes, but he's an entertaining guy.
I like McAfee.
I understand Titans fans not liking him because he is such a Colts homer, but
again, I like McAfee. I don't love McAfee. I don't think that McAfee's the greatest talk talent of all time.
I watch his show sometimes.
I think that McAfee's got a good crew. I think McAfee has high energy. See, I have a firm belief in this, and it's funny watching McAfee kind of grow on the fly because he hasn't been doing this for all that long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I watch, as McAfee kind of goes from being this punter, pseudo-celebrity to a barstool bro who's got some cred, to the Aaron Rodgers, Oprah Winfrey relationship, to what it is now, where it's a show where they're making $30-40 million a year doing the show, and now he's got to do a show every day, and how he's managing doing that show on a day-to-day basis. It's a lot different than, I think, a lot of people will say, I've done this or I do that, and I'm like, right, but it's different when it's a show every day with 4 hours to fill, and in McAfee's case, it's 3. And I think he's doing a fine job. I don't care about what he said at the draft. I don't care about any of that. His point on the Giants, I have 2 thoughts. One, that Arizona team was 1,000 times better than this Giants team.
So much better.
They are
Chandler
not
Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian
Watt.
Kirk, J.J. Watt, and Kyler Murray. We can say all we want about him. I take Kyler over Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor every day of the week.
Not even close. Not even close, in my opinion, that those teams aren't the same. 2, I agree with the take. It's the NFL.
Yeah.
And the idea of looking at the Giants and how bad they are. And I told everybody in 2019 the Titans were going to go into Cleveland, and everyone was, awarding Cleveland the Super Bowl trophy before the season. And I told everybody, Titans are going to go in there and kill them. And everyone's like, what do you mean? And I was like, look, Baker had a good rookie year. But now Dean Pease has had an entire summer to study Baker Mayfield's rookie tape. And I got to believe that Dean's going to throw something at him that he's never seen. On top of it, their coach is a moron, Freddie Kitchens. The Odell Beckham thing is all hype, no real juice to it. They got in Jarvis Landry, and so now they're going to force Baker to throw the ball a bunch. And the Titans, who are going under the radar without the hype, led by a coach who's a no-nonsense guy, they're going to go in there, not talk any smack, and they're going to smoke them. And they did. With this, I just kind of feel like the Giants are a lost organization. And maybe Brian Daboll's the guy to get him out of it. And maybe it starts this year. But to me, I feel like right now the Giants are wandering through the desert and they are looking for Moses to lead them out of it.
Well, I think it's because they don't have a quarterback. They don't have an identity at quarterback, because I don't think Daniel Jones is a strong enough identity to say, okay, this is what the Giants organization really is.
I think it might be above Daniel Jones. I think it might be the owner.
Maybe.
They've been bad. They've been putrid for a decade.
Yeah, it's been bad.
They won that Super Bowl with Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning. And since then, since Coughlin, the end of that, Manning, since that happened, since they both got old and it didn't work out, the Giants have just been
such a non-starter in the NFL.
I mean, they are just such a useless organization.
It's not a fun team to talk about because there's something interesting about the Giants.
Agreed. Think about this. Why is Washington a useless organization?
Owner.
Why are the Browns a useless organization?
Owner.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Once you become that level of useless, I almost have to blame the owner. I almost have to look at it as the owner's so stupid that they can't get a good general manager.
Well, you can assume that it starts at the top and it's a trickle down. Because how many useless owners have really successful teams and really solid quarterbacks?
Right now, Cincinnati.
Okay. And they got really, really lucky with being bad at the right time.
They had to suck so bad that the team that was trying to suck, Miami, didn't suck as bad as they did.
Yep. And Miami was trying. Miami was going to pay their coach to suck.
They were trying to stink. For the opportunity to draft, we all thought it was to draft Tua, but it would have given them the opportunity to draft Joe Burrow, and they didn't stink enough.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. What do we have in our text line, which is driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com?
One texter texts in and says, we should smoke the Giants for sure, but we all know our team's reputation of playing to the competition.
That is so true.
We smack the teams we have no business beating and lose to the Giants.
When I saw the schedule drop with the Giants at home week 1 and the Bills on the road week 2, I'm like everybody else, right? I look at the schedule, win, loss, but then I remember who the coach of the Titans is, and I remember that the coach of the Titans always wins those games that everybody says there's no way the Titans are going to win, and then they always find a way to beat the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football or smoke the Patriots at Nissan Stadium or beat the Rams on the road without Derrick Henry last year or whatever it is, they always find a way. They always lose to the Texans or the Jets or, again, these listless organizations that all of them are searching through the desert looking for their Moses, which is something I'm going to say more often now.
That is a good one.
There is, I don't know why that came to me, the biblical sense of this radio program that I just feel so strongly apparently about.
It makes sense.
I can't help it. What else we got?
Yeah, flaunt your Old Testament.
Okay, let's think.
Last year, no.
No, they won the first one against the Texans. They went on the road to Miami. They lost.
The Browns game. They beat the Browns.
Well, he said home opener. So I'm
my
thinking
bad.
that
My
means
bad.
like that second game in
first game at
2018.
home of the season.
Right. So
yeah.
2018, they played the Texans, and that was a game that nobody expected them to win. They had no chance to win. Everybody was hurt. Delaney Walker had broken his ankle the week before, and they beat the Texans. 2019, they lost at home to the Colts. 2020, they beat the Jags at home week 2. 2021, they got smoked by Arizona at home. So they're 2-2 under Vrabel.
Okay. Not great, but
and they
500.
played like absolute dog crap in that Jacksonville game, and they still won by 3 because it was Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And here's the Giants, and right now, again, why is Jacksonville so bad? The owner.
But
and
also, to Adam's point, you don't have a lot of time to get your feet under you or to have your practice games. Because, yeah, sure, if you want to look at the Giants as a quote-unquote practice game, well, you're going to Buffalo week 2, so you're getting smacked in the mouth real quick.
Yeah, no. That's a real game.
Yeah, that is a big boy game.
Buffalo on Monday Night Football week 2 is not something to scoff at. There is one other thought I have on Adam's call. And I know we got to get to a break, but I want to go over this one point of Adam's call that I meant to address when he said it, but then he made a second point. This is why I don't like second points, because I want to respond to the first point. He talked about that Cardinals game last year and how miserable he was waiting for an Uber at Nissan Stadium for an hour.
It was so hot.
Let me say this. That's why I don't Uber to Nissan Stadium.
That's why I walk.
I will not Uber to Nissan Stadium.
Absolutely not.
There is no Ubering to is fine, but there's no Ubering from Nissan Stadium that will ever happen in my life.
Ubering from Broadway, Ubering from Bridgestone, and Ubering from Nissan Stadium are all tough.
See, I don't think Bridgestone's that hard because now I don't want to give away my secret here because then everybody will do my secret. But I walk down across the Mumbrian, and I walk to the Omni Hotel, and then I call the Uber from the Omni Hotel, and then it can just pull right in because it's Korean Vets is right there.
Oh, that's smart.
Where there's still traffic, unlike Broadway where it's like shut down.
Yeah, that is smart.
And there's game traffic. So that is easy for me with Bridgestone Arena to Uber to and from. I just go to the Omni and Uber. Nissan Stadium, I'll walk across the bridge, go to the Omni and Uber.
So that's
if I have to Uber,
moral of the story.
Right. I'm just anti-Ubering
it's awful.
Nissan Stadium.
I usually just walk if I can, which is
also Broadway. I don't
fun.
want to sound like an old man here. I never go to Broadway anymore.
I don't remember the last time I went to Broadway, honestly.
I used to go to Broadway when I was your age, Caroline.
Back in my day.
I used to go to Broadway all the time. I have no interest in Broadway.
Well, I think that Broadway's also changed so much since you've been my age that, it's not fun to go because everyone that's there is either a bachelorette party, a bachelor party, or everyone's a tourist and they're just so drunk that it's miserable.
Has it really gotten that commercialized? Because, it's always been touristy for me.
Yeah.
Touristy for me. But I would say that, I went on Broadway. I'm sure I've been, in a Broadway bar. And obviously we did half the pregame shows last year from Broadway. But
and those were fun.
I want to say, yeah, but it's not on Broadway. You're there at 9 o'clock in the morning.
But they were fun because it wasn't Broadway.
But, the Broadway bar thing, I went out on Broadway and stayed out till 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yikes.
On February 29th or 30th or whatever that leap day is.
Yeah.
I stayed out till 4 in the morning. 2020, the first ever Nashville SC game at Nissan Stadium.
I bet you're probably glad that you did, though.
I went to the Preds and the Avs. I stayed out till 4 in the morning. I got sick with the flu And that was when it was, is it the flu or is it this
Is it
new
the
virus
thing
out
that
of
they're
China
talking
that
about?
nobody's ever
Yeah.
heard of, coronavirus?
Wow, we were so innocent back
Which
then.
I don't even call it coronavirus anymore. I don't know
COVID.
anybody who calls it coronavirus. But this was when it was the coronavirus.
Yeah, don't be chuggy. Coronavirus is chuggy.
Ever since then, I'm trying to think if I've been out to Broadway. Even when some of my friends were in town and they wanted to go out, I made them go to that Margaritaville hotel that's off of Broadway.
Yes.
And then that way I didn't have to go to Broadway.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. And whenever people want to come visit Nashville and they want to go to Broadway, I'm never going to tell them no because it is very fun. But I'm not going to go on my own free will.
No, I'm not either. Speaking of Nashville and all the changes, there was one tweet on a discussion that we had on Friday that makes me feel like I'm right. And I'll explain all of it, and we'll do that next. Stillman and Company. Let me tell you that 102.5, 106.3 The Game is bringing you Nashville's best coverage of Titans training camp presented by USA Hemp Store and Parman Energy, your one-stop petroleum solution.
Hey, this is Roman Yossi, and this is Nashville.
Going to the front of the net, he scores. What a gorgeous move. Roman Yossi.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Great news, hockey players. Perani's Hockey World's annual summer clearance sale is back. Swing by one of their 3 Nashville locations for big savings on your favorite brands. August 4th through 14th at your local Perani's Hockey World.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
The Game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Be a part of the conversation. Call or text the Game at 615-737-1025.
33 hours of savings this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Electronic Express. These deals are so hot, they only last 33 hours. Get a Hisense 65-inch 4K TV for just $399 or a JBL Bluetooth speaker for just $99. Save up to 50% on 4K TVs, computers, housewares, appliances, and more. Don't miss out on a Samsung Galaxy Watch 4 for $229 or a Medea laundry pair for just $399 each. Now through Saturday, shop online or at all Electronic Express locations.
When Smashville wants to rock.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Looking to the sky, saving, looking for a sign of life, 'cause it's too cold for you here.
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
People who call QC Kinetics are pretty much fed up with joint pain.
It's to the point where it's affecting their quality of life. Maybe they can't pick up their grandchildren anymore, or golf, or play tennis, or walk with their friends.
Dr. Justin Garzone, medical director at QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, giving lasting joint pain relief with no drugs, no steroids, and no surgery.
The great thing about our therapies, there isn't any downtime. There's no side effects, so patients can get our treatment and continue on with their day-to-day life.
And Dr. Garzone speaks from experience. He had excruciating back pain and got relief at a QC Kinetics clinic.
Over a very short period of time, the pain went away completely, and I've had absolutely no symptoms or pain since my treatment.
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN. Welcome into Chase, Willie, and D-Mace.
Stillman and Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Here's my hot take.
Okay.
Of the day. Well, it might be of the hell of the year. Tennessee will beat Georgia.
They'll beat Georgia?
They will beat Georgia.
Well, I will say that.
Why so confident?
I think Georgia has too many holes they got to replace on defense. That was a stout defense last year. I mean, those guys, they had, 3 first-rounders on that defensive front with the linebackers and the D-line. They got a lot to replace.
There you go. That was Derek Mason's hot take last week on the Midday Show that he thinks Tennessee's going to beat Georgia, which, no shot. No shot. But
I wouldn't put my money on it.
I digress with that. What I want to touch on is this. So we talked about this on Friday about how it's just not what it used to be. Just like we were talking in the last segment about how apparently, I don't go down on Broadway like I used to back in the day, but apparently Broadway's not the same anymore because Nashville's become too much of a tourist town.
It's very touristy.
According to you, I'm going to have to take your word.
Also, don't take my word for it because it's not like I go on Broadway on the reg, but... What?
So
what have you ever seen me on Broadway?
I don't go on Broadway, so how can I see you on Broadway?
Because I'm not there.
So anywho, I was thinking about the right way to. We discussed this on Friday, and it didn't totally sit with me about how I articulated my stance on this. But when I was a kid, Tennessee football, the Vol football was not as important as the Titans, but it was only one legitimate step behind, and. I mean, I cared even though I rooted against Tennessee. I cared, and I loved talking it. And when I first got here in 2015, I loved talking it. The Titans were the worst team in the NFL, and so they were kind of boring, although it was a train wreck. But Vol football, Butch Jones was the coach. Optimism was high. Anger and nervousness were just up there as well. Every game was a train wreck one way or another, good or bad. Either they won on a Hail Mary against Georgia, or they gave up a 4th and 15 against Florida, or it was just everything was great. It was so entertaining one way or another. And then there was the game, they played against Georgia Tech at the new Chick-fil-A or the new Mercedes-Benz Dome, and they had the guy on the sidelines with the trash can up in the air. And then there was the coaching hire of Greg Schiano, and it all mattered, even though it was all crazy. Now it feels like it just doesn't matter, and in Nashville. And I cannot get over this. So we talked about this on Friday. Somebody sent in a tweet. And this does tell you that I do check my mentions. Somebody sent in a tweet. John sent in a tweet. And this is exactly how I feel the demographic of Nashville has changed with one tweet. So I am literally using a sample size of N equals 1 to tell you that this is what I think the majority of the city is.
Okay.
John says on Twitter 2 days ago, at Jared Stillman, really trying to convince himself that Nashville is supposed to be a Vols town is the funniest blank ever. Listening to him cry about Tennessee being irrelevant is the absolute greatest. So I clicked John's Twitter. He's an Alabama fan.
I was going to say Kentucky, but Alabama is along the same lines.
So he's obviously a Titan fan, or I think he might be a Ravens fan. He's a Preds fan.
Okay.
And he's wearing a Preds jersey in his thing. He's a Braves fan, according to his Twitter. And he's a Bama fan.
Hi, John.
And this is what I'm telling you. I have to be honest, when I was growing up as a kid, and even when I went to college and I was, 2007, 2008 was my senior year of high school, so that was right when Nick Saban got to Alabama. Nobody that I knew except for one kid at school liked Alabama. Now I guarantee you all kinds of kids at school like Alabama.
Probably so.
And so this is what I think Nashville has become. I think most of the people that have moved here moved from the South. Smaller cities in the South. They move here. They have their team. Mm-hmm. And so they move here, and their team is not Tennessee. It could be Kentucky or Ohio State or Missouri or LSU or whatever. They all move here. And so now the people that laugh at the idea of Tennessee football is now greater than the people who love Tennessee football. And that's what has made it so difficult to talk about on the radio or has changed how the approach of Tennessee. This will shock you, Caroline. I used to host a solo show in the mid-morning, and I used to bring on a guy once a week, and we'd talk about Tennessee recruiting.
I don't believe that.
I swear
need a
to
clip
God.
of that.
I swear to God.
Because I know what you say about recruiting.
Do it on
your own time. I do not believe that.
I'm telling you. This is what
is that your personal interests or your grasp on the fan base and what they want to hear about? Has that changed and evolved? Or is that people just don't want to hear about Tennessee recruiting anymore? And it's fine if it's either one, because I would agree that I don't think that a majority of the people that live in the city want to hear about Tennessee recruiting. In Knoxville, for sure, because everyone's a Vol fan. But I would say that you're right, that there's probably more fans of other SEC schools than there are Tennessee fans. But you're talking about a ratio of 13 to 1, of 13 other fan bases in this population to one fan base.
I know, but we're in the state of Tennessee.
But this is also Nashville. This
know.
is a big city.
I know, but we're in the state of Tennessee. And you want to know when I really felt this way, when it really hit me, was when the Josh Heupel stuff, or when the Pruitt and Fulmer and all that, and then Danny White got hired, and Heupel got hired, and I was talking to Mark Howard about it. And I was like, I just don't think this freaking matters. Like, I remember when Jeremy Pruitt got hired and Schiano got not hired. And, I mean, Ian, we didn't have a phone line open for 2 weeks. There was a Titan game against the Texans on a Sunday, and John Robinson called in at 2:15 to talk about it, and then we had to go right back to the Vols because we couldn't not talk about it. And then,
but that's also an extreme situation. That's not just like a Monday breakdown after a Saturday game. That is
Fulmer getting pushed out the door because of a recruiting scandal.
I mean, that's huge. That's what I'm saying. Is that's not just any other regular old Vol talk. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people around the country would be interested in talking about.
That's what I'm talking about, though. When that happened, when Fulmer and Pruitt got fired, it just wasn't the same. And I remember, and I thought maybe they were sitting it out because they were embarrassed about what happened before.
Yeah.
And I told Mark, I was like, I just don't think this is the same as it used to be. And Mark, God rest his soul, he said to me, he was like, no, that's not the case. That's definitely, I was like, I mean, I you know, but Mark's more old school than me. Like, Mark remembers, like, when he was at Channel 5 and he went down to Knoxville when Johnny Majors resigned as coach and Philip Fulmer was there. Like, that was how big it was. You think Channel 5, no disrespect, Steve Lemon, you think Channel 5 sent anybody to Knoxville, you know, over stuff like that nowadays?
No, because the city has changed.
I know, and that's my point.
But that's okay that the city has changed. That's a good thing.
No, but if I'm the Vols and I'm the Vol fans, I want Nashville back.
I mean, do you think they really care that much?
Do you remember what happened this winter when I said that they didn't move the needle in Nashville anymore?
Well, that's different.
You ask yourself, think about that.
That's different because they felt like you were saying that the Vols don't matter.
How much behind?
I don't think the Vols don't matter.
I mean,
I just think there are other things,
scenes,
and the population of the city of Nashville is so saturated with other fan bases.
How much behind the scenes did you have to deal with when that happened, of being like, he's crazy. He just says all this kind of crazy crap, and who knows what he's talking about?
A lot. I had talked to a lot of Vol fans off the ledge.
About me?
Yeah.
What were their takes?
Well, how could he say that, needle doesn't move in Nashville?
Because it's true.
I'm just saying.
Because it's true.
I had a whole lot of Vol fans mad at me. I said I didn't say anything.
Add that to your kitty. We're to the phones next. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
At some point, it's a combination of who did you play and what does your skill set look like.
Get the best analysis of the big stories in the sports world with ESPN's Jason Fitz.
If you reach for a quarterback in the draft because you need one, you're going to set your franchise back 5 years.
Join Fitzy every Wednesday at 4:30. Presented by Blood Assurance. Jason Fitz.
I am 5'9.5"
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bobus. High temperatures here on this Monday, right near 90 degrees. Humidity makes us feel like we're in the middle 90s and a few isolated showers and weak thunderstorms this afternoon. No worries about severe weather to begin the new week.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
If you speed, there are lots of sounds that you might hear, like the sound of your vehicle crashing, because eventually speeding catches up with you. Paid for by NHTSA.
Don't be surprised this week to see other jewelry store owners shopping at Genesis Diamonds. They'll be taking advantage of Genesis' most aggressive offer ever. All GIA diamond engagement rings marked down an extra 20% below Genesis' everyday price.
That's right. The vault is open, and we're selling the finest handcrafted diamond rings at rock bottom prices. Now for a very limited time.
The GIA is the world standard in diamond grading, certifying accuracy and documenting quality, so you can buy with confidence.
Every Genesis engagement ring ring is included in this event, from a half carat up to 20 carat stones, all shapes, rounds, princess cuts, emerald cuts, cushion cuts, ovals.
There has never been a better time to get an extreme value price on a GIA certified diamond, perfectly set in a gorgeous engagement ring. Hurry in for best selection. It's Genesis Diamonds GIA Diamond Extravaganza.
Save an extra 20% on these rare, precious diamond rings, now for a limited time. One per customer, please.
Exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
For the love of the climb, for the love of the fall, for the love of knowing your kids' laughter is the sweetest music there is, for the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Informative.
They played a lot of power play time together back in the day.
Insightful.
It's a great addition to this team.
And just three guys being dudes.
On the sideline in shorts and a t-shirt.
Hanging out, watching the game.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
No such thing as bad press.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
The final countdown to the fall sports season is approaching, and before everyone hunkers down in the man cave, we're providing the ultimate date night opportunity. A pair of tickets to see Michael Bublé at Bridgestone Arena on Tuesday, August 16th, plus qualify to win Davidoff Cigars Blend Bar Cocktail and Gift Card. Tune in to Chase, Willie, and D-Mace tomorrow during the noon hour for your chance to win. Brought to you by Blend Bar with Davidoff Cigars. Let's go to your phones. As promised, everything's on the table. The Titans, our random conversation about the New York Giants, I guess, is on the table. Our conversation about Tennessee mattering. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Caroline, what do we have?
Shape and Mount Juliet texts in and says Nashville is very different in support of the Vols currently. Just as Jared says, Pearl brought some excitement. Vitello is building momentum, but other than that, not really.
I mean, I will tell you, I hate to say this. The topics that move the needle the most in relation to Tennessee is when Tennessee does something that is indicative of Tennessee over the last 20 years.
Like just something like the player getting kicked out for throwing a bird to the umpire.
Yes. That, like when Tennessee baseball had everybody's hopes so high and they lost, and it was like, here you go, Tennessee baseball. Or when Rick Barnes, has Tennessee as a 2-seed every year, and the Vol fans get excited and they lose in the first round to Sequoia State University, and it's like,
well,
there
was
you
Michigan,
go again.
But
It's, there you go. They lost to another 9-seed for old Coach Barnes. That is the stuff that really, really moves the needle.
Speaking of that, I was talking to Gentry this morning about your take on his take about Rick Barnes.
What's his take on Rick Barnes?
It was like a column that he wrote about Rick Barnes, and you told him that you thought it was ridiculous or dumb or whatever it was.
And who was right?
Well, Rick Barnes can't win in the postseason. I'll just say that.
So all I remember is I woke up and I was going to swim. I was going to go do a little exercise swimming. And so I was in the car, and this was the day of the NCAA tournament last year, 2021. Mm-hmm. And I woke up, and I was like, I think Oregon State's going to beat Tennessee. And I tweeted it out. And I get in the car on my way to go swim, and I'm listening to Robbie and Joe, and they are sitting there laughing about my take that Tennessee is going to beat or is going to lose to Oregon State. That led me to tweet out that I believe that Wayne Tinkle, the coach at Oregon State, whose daughter was at Stanford when I was at Louisville, and she was at the Final Four banquet, and I was at the Final Four banquet back in 2009, and I'm just saying Jocelyn Tinkle was a great basketball player.
Good.
And
good for her.
And so that's her dad, Wayne Tinkle. And I said, Wayne Tinkle is a better coach than Rick Barnes. So then I'm doing my swimming and I'm listening to Robbie and Rex Road, and I hear them blast that take. And then Ian backed me up. I thought about betting $1,000 on Oregon State on the money line, and the only reason that I can't celebrate for it is because I was going to and didn't is the definition of loser talk. But it was a topic that day.
It was definitely
I do remember
a topic.
that. I listened to that show.
And that's what people want to talk about now when it comes to Tennessee. Now, if Tennessee, as Derek predicts,
that's what non-Tennessee fans want to talk about when it comes to Tennessee.
I'm just talking about
non-Tennessee fans love to make fun of the Vols.
See, that's it. I think again, if there were a pie of SEC fan bases in the city of Nashville, Tennessee would be number one.
Yes.
In my opinion. Now, Alabama, I think, would be getting close, like getting a little too close for comfort. But
I think that Tennessee has the majority.
Sure. Tennessee 1, Alabama 2, Kentucky 3, and then you can argue whatever you want after
Georgia,
that.
Auburn, Ole Miss.
Vanderbilt is probably
I didn't even think about Vanderbilt.
Somewhere in there.
And they are here.
So, anywho, but yes. But I think the Vol hate moves the needle more than the pro Vol talk moves the needle.
Well, because there's more people who are. While Tennessee has the largest piece of the pie in terms of fan base, there's probably more people in Nashville that aren't Tennessee fans, but are fans of other teams, and other teams love to make fun of Tennessee.
But see, that's why talking to Preds works now. Whereas before, people always used to tell, I can't talk Preds, can't talk Preds, can't talk Preds. Now I'm telling you, can't talk ball recruiting because nobody cares anymore. And I'm not saying nobody means that absolutely nobody cares. Some people do care, but the mass audience does not care about some 4-star, receiver that's visiting and he's got an offer from Georgia and Missouri and that stuff.
But they talk about it in Knoxville because that moves the needle in Knoxville.
Sure. What else we have in the text line?
Another texter texts in and says Tennessee will beat Georgia and Alabama this year. Book it.
Okay. Tom is up next here on the phone lines. I can't even write. I mean, seriously. Tom is up next. So apparently we were talking about how we never Uber from Nissan Stadium. I guess he's an Uber driver. Tom, I'll give you about 20 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, what you said earlier is right, Jared. One thing that I do, because I've been doing this Uber thing for well over 6 years, 37,000 rides, is if I get a rider that thinks that they just got to get dropped off down at Nissan Stadium, I say, hey, let me do this. Let me drop you off at 3rd Avenue and take that walking bridge across. And I tell them that by the time we do that, you'll be in the stadium in your seat and on your second beer versus me dropping you off down there. Works every time.
Tom, I gave you 40 seconds instead of 20. Good job, though. Congratulations on 37,000 Uber rides. Appreciate your call. So
good to know.
I will say I am now. I know how to drive the Nissan Stadium. Like most stadiums around America are, if you know how to drive to and from them,
it's not as bad,
right? Like if
I think the best thing to do is drive over to East and then take an Uber from East.
Maybe. Again, I know how to get in. Like I have a parking pass, so I know how to drive into Nissan Stadium.
Yeah.
And I know how to get out of Nissan Stadium, whereas I feel like a lot of people don't drive consistently to the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody was a Titan, like a first-timer going to a game, I would 100% go with his advice about parking on the other side of the bridge, walking across the bridge, getting into the stadium, and going to the game. And I do think that for a couple of years, if this new stadium if they ever start building this new stadium, I do think that when that happens, it will be a couple of years of a complete train wreck, and we'll all just have to deal with it. But then when we get the Super Bowl here, hopefully that parking and Ubering and everything else will all be ironed out. So there's a little hope there.
Whenever we get WWE SmackDown, it'll all be worth it.
WrestleMania.
I'm sorry, whatever it is.
WrestleMania is the big one.
What's the SmackDown?
That's like a Monday night show on USA or TNT or something like that.
Well, hopefully we get that too.
We already get that. They play that at Bridgestone Arena.
Well, good.
So we don't worry about that.
Good.
But WrestleMania is like the freaking wrestling convention, and we are going to get that. From what I've been told.
That'll make it worth it.
If we get a new stadium. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. It was the slightest change in Ryan Tannehill, but it hit me like a ton of bricks this weekend, and then other people started noticing it too. What do we make of it? Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Heads up. 106.3 FM is a new way to hear 102.5 The Game from downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and on I-24 to Murfreesboro.
Make sure you have that preset on your radio dial.
We're making it even easier to listen to Nashville's best sports talk.
Because we have a great show planned for you today.
Tune in to 106.3.
That's what makes this team better.
And hear the difference.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen. Are you ready for this?
You've never seen the PBR like this. Buckle up for the ultimate weekend in Western sports as the PBR Team Series invades Nashville's Bridgestone Arena, August 19th through the 21st. 8 teams, 3 days, 1 champion. Don't miss your chance to watch history as it's made. Get your tickets now at PBR.com or Ticketmaster.com. PBR Team Series. Bull riding will never be the same.
If you missed the latest from Robbie and Rex Road.
And I don't remember where I put the Titans, but certainly I didn't have them out of, like, I had them maybe like, you know.
You'd have an 18?
10 or 11. Yeah, no. I mean, it wasn't like super high, but I think it was probably around 10, 11. But I think they will be picked by us and by everybody. Well, not everybody, but consensus, majority opinion will be that the Titans are not going to make the playoffs this year. For the 1 seed, that brings back its quarterback, brings back its star running back, brings back an entire defense that was really good at the end of the year. Lost
the
A.J.
NFL
Brown.
Coach of the Year.
Yeah, has the NFL Coach of the Year. Played the most players in the history of the NFL on the way to still getting the 1 seed. And yet, now A.J. Brown definitely. That one I understand. Like, the A.J. Brown aspect of it, I get that. You know, people think of the Titans, they think of Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown. Well, there's half of that's gone.
Right.
But still, the 1 seed.
Tune in Robbie and Rex with Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on ESPN, 102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
More than 95% of people incarcerated will come home like I did. I'm William Arnold, director of the new Tennessee Office of Reentry. When they come home, we want to be ready to help remove barriers to employment. It's okay if you've been incarcerated or justice involved. Help is available. Go to tnworkready.com or visit your local American Job Center.
Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
tnworkready.com.
O'Reilly.
Don't risk getting stranded with a bad battery. Our professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts will test your battery for free. If your battery does need to be replaced, we'll help you find the best battery for your vehicle and your budget. Don't wait until your battery is dead. Get it tested for free today at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We got pass rushers.
Awesome game set.
Checker flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury. He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. So I was listening. They've got this thing on Sirius XM, just like they have the NFL Network. It's the Sirius XM Training Camp Tour, the one that brought us last week's A.J. Brown. It was an unexpected change, even though A.J. Brown demanded the trade that sent him to the Philadelphia Eagles. I digress. But the Titans had their setup on Friday. Mike, Keith, and Charles Davis were there for the SiriusXM Training Camp Tour, and they sat down with Mike Vrabel, Kevin Byard, and Ryan Tannehill. So, of course, Saturday, after I was done doing my SiriusXM show, I decided to listen to hear what Tannehill and Vrabel and Byard had to say, and the answer is not much, except for this one weird story that Vrabel told about in college, noticing Ric Flair walking on the streets of Columbus and how he told Luke Fickell that was absolutely Ric Flair, and Luke Fickell didn't think it was Ric Flair, and then Vrabel yelled at him and said, woo, and Ric Flair turned around, and so they knew it was Ric Flair, and then, so anywho, that was the most interesting part of the three guys talking, except for this. Ryan Tannehill, I noticed, I have listened to Ryan Tannehill talk for 4 years now, basically, and I know what a Ryan Tannehill press conference is. I know his demeanor. I know what he says. It's always us. It's always we. It's always we need to do this, or we were going to do this, or we thought. Remember the Cincinnati game after he blew it, and he kept saying we didn't think that we'd be in the situation, and we thought we were going to get it, and we thought. And all of a sudden, I was hearing a lot more personal pronouns with Ryan Tannehill. I was hearing a lot more possessive pronouns. I was hearing a lot more, honestly, selfish pronouns out of Ryan Tannehill. For example, this was him talking about Nick Westbrook-Akina on the Sirius XM training camp tour.
You mentioned guys stepping up, guys like Nick Westbrook, who's been solid for us for the past few years, and then now stepping into a bigger role. He's been consistent out here like he always is, but he's making those plays for me right now. So a lot of confidence there.
He's making plays for me right now. Again, if this was any other quarterback in the league that I don't listen to every single week, I probably wouldn't have even noticed it.
No.
But as I was driving in my car and I heard Tannehill hear that, my head popped up, and I was like, making plays for me? Like, making plays for me? Really? Like, that's not really sound – that doesn't sound –
Doesn't sound like Tannehill, no.
So then he was talking about the rookie receivers, and he started off with Treylon Burks.
Yeah, starting with Treylon, a guy who came in and didn't get a lot of work in the spring, just some things he was dealing with. And then, now coming out in training camp, from day one, he's made plays for me. So it's been exciting for me.
Me.
Not necessarily wrong, just
No,
different.
I don't have a problem with the me.
Just different.
But that doesn't make any sense. And so I asked him, and I honestly felt like such a, moron asking this question.
A dingus?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like everyone's going to look at me like, what are you doing asking Tannehill this question? And honestly, I'm not even sure I asked it well enough, but it's like, dude, I hear you using me and I and, a lot different than before. So this is why I asked Tannehill about kind of the ownership feel of now it feels like they're working for me. This was Tannehill earlier today. I'm not sure I've ever heard you talk about guys making plays specifically for you. And I heard it in the Sirius XM interview you did over the weekend. Is there more of an ownership of the offense for you personally with this group this year?
I don't know. I take ownership every year, but I keep saying the same thing. It just gives me a lot of confidence when guys are making plays. I think early on you're kind of giving guys an opportunity, right? They haven't had the opportunity to make a play, especially some of the young guys. You give them opportunity, and they make the play, then you give them another opportunity. And then you kind of build that confidence. Even if you don't make every one, you get that confidence that they're going to make more than they don't. So at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Like I said, beating the guy across from you, and if QB gives you a chance making a play on the ball, and from our seats as quarterbacks is, if a guy has shown to do that, it's our job to get him a ball in a spot where they can go get it.
Now, see, that answer totally threw me for a loop.
Why?
Because Tannehill was talking about, it's your job as the quarterback to, if they make plays for you, to then have trust that they can make more plays for you and that they can.
Which is true.
Second person talk, though. Like what you want to do and we as quarterbacks, and that's not me.
It's almost speaking like a hypothetical. If a receiver makes a play for you,
not
when
if you were
Nick
the quarterback
Westbrook-Akina makes a play for me, or when Treylon Burks makes a play for me.
Yes. And so I'm sitting there.
But it's still kind of taking ownership that the receiver is making plays for the quarterback, not making plays.
Sure, absolutely. And I think it's the delivery, too. Because, again, I think if Tannehill's being more selfish, I think it's a good thing. I actually like this. But I heard that interview Saturday. I talked to everybody about that at practice today, about how I was sitting there and I was like, that doesn't sound like Tannehill. And so I mentioned it to Gentry Estes on the sidelines today. I was talking to Gentry about it. And I was talking to Gentry about Tannehill when I listened to the Sirius XM interview, talking about guys making plays for him, for me. And I was like, that doesn't sound like Tannehill. So then Tannehill was doing it today in his press conference again. I think he was talking about Kyle Phillips, and he was talking about making plays for me. And Gentry said to me after the press conference, I saw it as soon as he said it. I saw what you were talking about. Now, he doesn't have an opinion as to what that means, or I'm sure he does. If he does, he's not telling me about it. But, again, just seeing the first person hear about Tannehill. And then when I asked him about the ownership of the offense, it was, I think, I mean, I feel like I'm answering this question the same. When you always want to have ownership of the offense. You always want guys to feel like you. But instead, imagine if he had said me. I always want ownership of this offense. I always want to know if I can get the ball to you, then I can give that guy more. That is more I, which I think Tannehill should do. I think Tannehill should talk in the first person more. And it's natural. Like this Derek Jeter documentary is driving me crazy because Derek Jeter will talk about a situation like, well, I don't think you should sit there and cry about who was using steroids and who wasn't. And if you want to go out every day and play shortstop and no, Derek, it's you that's playing shortstop. And clearly
it's a very natural thing that you pointed out to me in press conferences. And it's not just Tannehill. It's not just the Titans. It's almost every press conference that you hear that it's, you need to go out there. You got to go out there. You got to execute the game plan. You. It's a lot more comfortable to say that rather than I have to go out there and I have to execute the game plan or we have to execute the game plan. It's a little bit more uncomfortable.
Can I ask why that is?
I think that's kind of natural, to almost paint this hypothetical picture rather than explain exactly what's going on with you. Maybe that's, the fear of letting, too much
what's
behind
going
the
on
curtain.
With me?
Yes.
No. When you said it's easier to do that to paint the hypothetical about what's going on with you. And I'm thinking, no, you should have said what's going on with me in that instance.
Well, I'm not talking about myself. But if I were, it would be a lot easier for me to explain about a hypothetical situation that reflects what I'm going through rather than this is how I feel, this is what I'm going through.
Because it's almost like Tannehill's not putting his true feelings out there. It's just the hypothetical feelings that if you were in his shoes, you would have.
You want to do this, yeah. It's more comfortable that way. Because if Tannehill would have gotten up there and said, I want ownership of this offense, that feels so much more personal. Even though it is personal.
It feels to me like it feels more personal when he says this guy's making plays for me.
Yeah, because it is.
It almost, and I feel like I could look at it either way. I could look at it as he's telling Nick Westbrook, Akina, and these other guys that they work for him when technically Ryan Tannehill's signature isn't at the bottom of their paychecks.
But they are making plays for him.
It's true. It's his offense. He's the quarterback. It's his team.
Which goes back to that press conference after the Bengals game. It's a lot more comfortable to say we needed to be better rather than I needed to be better because that's almost accepting the fact that, hey, it was me.
So then where is this change from Tannehill coming from?
Is it coming from, people from the outside, like people like Vrabel or Todd Downing saying we need you to take more ownership? Or is it Ryan Tannehill looking at himself and saying I need to take more ownership? Is it a little bit of both? I don't know.
I am just trying to figure out.
I hope it's coming from Tannehill.
I hope it is too. I'm just trying to figure out when Ryan Tannehill decided to get a little bit more selfish, and I think that's good. I think it's.
I don't like using the word selfish though because I feel like that paints such a negative connotation. I feel like it's more rather than selfish, taking more ownership.
Well, I would say it like this: everybody has a little bit of a narcissist in them, but
and I feel like to play football at that level, you
narcissists.
do need to have a little bit of I'm better than you mentality.
Well, ask yourself this. Let me ask you this. Who is more selfish? Ryan Tannehill, Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers.
Who is more selfish? Ryan Tannehill, Tom Brady?
Tom Brady.
Who is more selfish? Ryan Tannehill, Peyton Manning?
Peyton Manning.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
you have to be selfish.
He has to be selfish.
Yeah.
But he needs that. Like, he needs it. Some people are
Unless
a little
he
too
can't
selfish.
Do it.
Some people are a little too selfish and they don't need any selfishness.
Antonio Brown.
Right. That's too much about LeBron James.
It's too me.
Kyrie Irving.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need. Tannehill needs, in my opinion,
going back to his confidence issue against the Bengals, I would have loved if Tannehill would have walked out on that field and said, "I'm the best player on this field."
Oh, I thought you were talking about that. I was going to say if he had said after the game, "I screwed up."
Oh, but I would have loved that too. But it was the confidence level from the very beginning of that game that I looked at him and I thought,
so obvious.
It
was so obvious.
His shoulders are up in his ears and he looks like he just saw a ghost. I would have loved for him to walk out on that field and say, "I'm the best player here," even if that's not true. You have to have that confidence.
I mean, is it wrong to say, as a talk show host, that did stick with me?
Him not taking ownership?
No, him saying, making plays for me, and saying that, and then saying it today, that it was something that I heard and I found to be very peculiar. And then I really didn't like the way I asked the question, because what I should have done, like going back and listening to it right there where Ian played it, is I should have just said, why are you using the word me? But nobody else there would have understood the context with which I was asking the question. But I am incredibly fascinated by something I'm not sure I really ever heard from Tannehill before. It makes me think it's a conscious decision on his part.
Well,
and I want to know why that conscious decision exists.
Intentional, as Mike Vrabel called it.
So I want to get to that as well.
Decision.
615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones on this. I'm sure a lot of you out there probably think, oh, God, Jared has really gone down a rabbit hole. It's just interesting to me, the possessiveness with which Tannehill talks about. Mike Vrabel did talk about this, and I get the idea that Mike Vrabel probably likes it. I'll explain why next. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose.
Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
It's brought to you by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. We are your racing station.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
If you're hiring, you need Indeed. Their hiring tool lets you schedule and conduct virtual interviews all in one place. Learn more at Indeed.com/credit.
Celebrate back-to-school season with Hiller. This month only, get free backyard upgrades when you replace essential home systems, like a free Traeger grill with a new whole home generator, or a free Yeti cooler with a new tankless water heater. And Hiller's keeping you cool for back-to-school with zero-interest financing for up to 12 months on select new HVAC systems. Visit happyhiller.com. Happy you'll be, or the service is free.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics wants to thank their patients for voting them the #1 orthopedic practice in the Nashville Scene Poll for 3 years in a row. Their physicians specialize in spine, joint replacement, knee, hip, upper extremity, and other orthopedic conditions. At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, they adhere to all CDC guidelines for the patient's and staff safety. To experience world-class orthopedic care and see a list of all physicians, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
But I do feel a lot more confident with him at quarterback going into this season than I did at the beginning of the year when I thought about, Brad Johnson had that Super Bowl run in 2002 with the Buccaneers. The next year they were 9-7. The year after that he made 4 starts. They were 0-4 and his career was over. And I'm not saying that Tannehill would have made 4 starts, because there's nobody on the roster who's going to take the job from Tannehill. But in training camp, I'm convinced Tannehill's confident this year. Just as I knew as soon as he threw that first ball in that Cincinnati game, I'm like, he's got no confidence. Whatever happens, please do not put the ball in his hands the rest of the game. Right now, I feel the exact opposite. And that reminds me of 2020, and it reminds me of 2019.
Tune in Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
on ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
When that door closed behind me and I was free, the main thing I wanted to do was just re-enter society, get a job, and see my family.
It's okay.
There's a new state office of re-entry in Tennessee, specifically to help folks like me get jobs. Go to tnworkready.com or visit your local American Job Center. Re-entry is a normal thing, and it's okay.
Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
tnworkready.com.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Have you noticed Ryan pushing?
I think his leadership is, something that's been good. I think that's probably intentional. I think he knows when to push guys and when to pull them along, and sometimes, how you have to approach certain guys to get the best out of them. And, if I'm a receiver, that's the most important relationship that we'll have on our football team, is the one with the quarterback and the receiver, because
that he's the guy throwing the ball. So wherever he needs them or wants them on a particular route or versus particular coverage, that's where I would be if I wanted to try to get the ball.
There you go. That was Tannehill, or Vrabel on Tannehill. Is he pushing him more? Yeah, I think his leadership is really important with these receivers, and I think the receivers need to get in line with the quarterback because the most important relationship is the one between the quarterback and the receivers. And to me, again, this is just me, I think Mike Vrabel wants Ryan Tannehill to run the offense, that he wants Ryan Tannehill to guide the ship. It's like the relationship between a program director and a talk show host. At the end of the day, I don't believe a good program director can tell a talk show host every day what to do. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it happen before, and I just don't think it works. And I'm not talking about my own program director because I think he does a good job kind of letting me do what I want to do, and then, sometimes not letting me say certain things about certain stuff.
It's probably for the best.
Probably how it should be.
Yeah.
But that's what I believe the relationship between the coach and the quarterback has to be. And instead of where Vrabel, and maybe you brought up earlier that Arthur Smith could have had a role in this, whereas before Vrabel wants to tell everybody what to do because Vrabel's the coach and Vrabel believes that's the coach's job, I think now Vrabel looks at it as almost an equal partnership with the quarterback. And that the quarterback has to be more possessive of the offense. Instead of you do what I tell you to do, you tell me what you want to do. And that has been what I believe the change is. And again, sometimes the idea of being more selfish is a bad thing. I think for Tannehill, the idea of being more selfish is a good thing.
Well, it's a scale. A scale of selfishness.
And Ryan Tannehill's too far on the not selfish
side.
And he needs to be more selfish. Ryan Tannehill's a good man. I will, unless something happens between now and hopefully, 32, 55 years from now, hopefully nothing happens between now and then, knock on wood. But I will probably go to my grave thinking that Ryan Tannehill is a good man. Just like I believe Marcus Mariota is a good man. Marcus wasn't selfish enough for this job. And I'm not sure, again, I haven't talked to Marcus in 2.5 years. I'm not sure if Marcus has become more selfish, but I think he needs to be more possessive, Nick Westbrook-Akina is making plays for me. Today at practice, guess what? Nick Westbrook-Akina dropped a couple of passes for me.
And if I could look back at my notes, I'm not sure if he got the ball again.
I think he
He
did,
may have.
or
Maybe I
a
missed
pass
it.
to him,
but he had 2 passes to him back to back. Both dropped.
Don't drop the ball.
Both should have caught it.
Don't drop the ball.
Yep.
And so just throwing that out there. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. What do we have?
One texter checks in and says, I'm a psychiatrist and a Titans fan. I agree that it's definitely an attitudinal shift for him, and in my opinion, I think it indicates more ownership and more self-confidence.
Do we think Tannehill is more self-confident? By the way,
Maybe
let me
he
say
wants
this.
to be.
I think a psychiatrist or a psychologist would be somebody who picks up on this.
Yeah.
More so than, say, a talk show host that would just hear me, I, you, we, us, the way in which those pronouns are used. I feel weird talking about pronouns because I feel like the second I talk about pronouns, somebody's going to fire off a political take about like the he, they, whatever. And I don't care about that.
This isn't about that.
So, I'm not talking about that, but those possessive pronouns of my guys, my team, making plays for me, that is something that I feel like can rub people the wrong way sometimes if it's overdone.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of Tannehill,
I don't think it's overdone.
It almost felt kind of weirdly campy, if that's the right word, when he would say we sometimes.
Campy?
Yes. Let's get the banjo out and play Kumbaya. And everybody's everybody loves everyone. Good
I thought
time.
you meant the term camp like fashion camp.
Fashion camp.
Yeah, the term camp, it just means intentionally gaudy, intentionally over the top.
Like that shirt is camp?
Yeah. Has someone told you that your shirt is camp before? Chic.
Ian, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Never heard of it, but that's not my.
Please enlighten us.
So, isn't the singer, her name's Bjorn? She was kind of kooky.
What? You think I know who that is?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know who any of these
For
people
example,
are.
she wore this gown that looked like a swan or like a goose, and it was
At
awful.
the Grammys?
Probably.
The Met Gala?
Well, that was a Met Gala theme one year, was camp, and everyone just wore something like totally over the top. And I went to the Met exhibit, the camp exhibit, and it's dresses that are like big and pink and poofy with hearts all over them. It's just camp. I can't really describe it.
That is not how I was using
That's why I was confused.
That was not how I was
I
using
was
the
like, I
term
don't think
camp.
Ryan Tannehill is camp necessarily.
But before it was like summer camp with Ryan Tannehill, like Ernest going to camp. And it was just like everybody's having a good time. Everybody get around the campfire. Everybody, let's get the baked beans. Let's get the whatever.
Roger McCreary supplying them.
Yes. And I say all of this because, to me, again, I think the word that the self-claimed psychiatrist in the text line could be, who knows, an attitudinal shift.
I didn't even know that was a word, but I like it.
I think it's fair to say there's an attitudinal shift with Ryan Tannehill this year. I feel the attitudinal shift.
But my question is, we've been talking a lot about Ryan Tannehill in camp, in training camp, looking a lot like the 2019 and 2020 self. What happened there? Did he not have this attitudinal shift then?
So
is that so it's motivating the shift
Here's
here?
what's crazy is that when Tannehill took the job from Mariota, I will never forget this. Tannehill had his press conference on the Wednesday. And Tannehill, and it was weird because nobody knew who was going to come up to the podium on Wednesday because that's when the starting quarterback speaks. So Vrabel spoke first and obviously talked a lot about making the change, and then Tannehill spoke and Marcus spoke at his locker. It was almost like it was ceremonial in the sense that the starting quarterback was at the podium, and now Marcus, who for the last 5 years had been at the podium every week, is now at his locker stall, even though it would have been easier and more practical for Marcus to just then follow Tannehill at the podium. But because he's not the quarterback anymore, he's not going to the podium.
Mm-hmm.
And Tannehill was asked about things that he saw as a backup. And he talked about how he had to hold his tongue as a backup and play his role in support of Marcus. And I kind of thought, I was like, man, that's kind of a shot, right? Like, I don't know if I'd be saying that about, hey, yeah, I sat on the sidelines and watched Marcus run these guys, and I had to hold my tongue. But Tannehill did very much feel like the missing ingredient from that 2019 team, and it felt almost overnight like Ryan Tannehill's leadership changed all of that. And then in 2020, Tannehill was still good. He wasn't as efficient on the field as he was in 19, but the team was much better, and they won the division and everything else. And then last year, it just all felt on offense like it was all out of whack. And this keeps going back to the discussion that we have had numerous times, which is the why. Like, why? Why does Tannehill? Why does he play so differently in 2021 than he did in 2019 or 2020?
Mm-hmm.
And again, everybody claims to have their reasons for that. I don't know. But I never felt an attitudinal shift until this year.
And so that's what I'm wondering. Then
But I didn't
is
cover
that,
Miami either,
is
so
that
I
the
wouldn't know
root
that.
of him taking such a step forward in 2022 so far in training camp is because he feels more empowered, more self-confident? Well, where was that empowerment and self-confidence, 2019, 2020 when he didn't have this quote-unquote attitudinal shift?
I'm telling you, I believe that, this is just my opinion, I wonder if this was part of his therapy program. That I believe that Ryan Tannehill, when he says that he spent a lot of time in therapy after that Bengals game, I believe him. And I really am now wondering if I'm encroaching on his business by openly speculating what I think he might or might not have worked on in therapy.
Yeah, maybe
Probably
so.
not overly fair. But I do wonder if, this is something for him that he went through and really got to the root of some of the things that bothered him about last season. Again, things that he would never tell anybody. And really, it's nobody's freaking business, honestly. But that maybe that was something that stood out to him. And then he decided that he was going to be, as Vrabel would say, more intentional with how he was going to talk about this stuff.
And I do wonder, too, when his back is up against a wall, when he gets sacked multiple times in a game, when the Titans are down, is that attitudinal shift going to be a permanent thing? Is he going to be able to rally everyone around and say, let's go, let's keep going? Or is he going to kind of shrink back into his former self that we saw in 2021? And I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's when you are going to see the real new, quote-unquote, Ryan Tannehill, is can he keep up this whole self-confidence, ownership of the offense when it's not easy?
No, that's when you are going to see it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll just get back to your phones on this. Again, Tannehill had a decent day at camp. 2 interceptions, both on days when I haven't been there. I'm just saying. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game.
It's training time for the Two-Tone Blue, and we have you covered. Talking Titans? Join us live from training camp for interviews and reports, giving you the latest on the Titans.
There's a lot of guys that are making an impact on me, both good and bad.
I like some of the depth. I think that's the key right now.
Training camp coverage is fueled by Parman Energy. Visit ParmanEnergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Don't be surprised this week to see other jewelry store owners shopping at Genesis Diamonds. They'll be taking advantage of Genesis' most aggressive offer ever. All GIA diamond engagement rings marked down an extra 20% below Genesis' everyday price.
That's right. The vault is open, and we're selling the finest handcrafted diamond rings at rock bottom prices. Now for a very limited time.
The GIA is the world standard in diamond grading, certifying accuracy and documenting quality so you can buy with confidence.
Every Genesis engagement ring is included in this event, from a half carat up to 20 carat stones, all shapes, rounds, princess cuts, emerald cuts, cushion cuts, ovals.
There has never been a better time to get an extreme value price on a GIA certified diamond, perfectly set in a gorgeous engagement ring. Hurry in for best selection. It's Genesis Diamonds GIA Diamond Extravaganza.
Save an extra 20% on these rare, precious diamond rings, now for a limited time. One per customer, please.
Exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Hey, homeowners and home buyers, listen up. Loan Pronto has 30-year fixed rates with APRs in the 4s and 15-year loans with APRs that start with 3. Hey, it's Willie Donick. Don't be confused by the media's hype about interest rates. At Loan Pronto, their rates have plummeted recently, and they're currently refinancing homeowners who locked in a 5 or 6% rate. So if you've got a rate over 5%, or if your lender has you pre-approved or locked in at anything 5% or higher, you need to call Loan Pronto now. Not all lender rates are created equal. Loan Pronto's rates are down big time, and you need to take advantage. Whether you are buying, refinancing, getting cash out, or even if you just closed a few weeks ago. Call Loan Pronto today, and you could save tens of thousands of dollars. Loan Pronto can help keep more money in your pocket. Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Join 1025 The Game, Brentwood Fire and Police, the Williamson County Sheriff's Department, and the Nolensville Fire and Rescue for the 9th Annual Williamson County Battle of the Badges Blood Drive, Wednesday, August 17th from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Brentwood Library on Concord Road. This year's blood drive will be in memory of Williamson County Deputy Chandler Rowe. Support the 9th Annual Williamson County Battle of the Badges Blood Drive, Wednesday, August 17th, sponsored by BL Harbert International.
Parman Energy is your one-stop petroleum solution across all of Tennessee, offering turnkey petroleum solutions for professionals in major industries, serving trucking fleets, construction companies, industrial plants, and more. Whether a large corporation or owner-operator, Parman Energy has your diesel fuel, lubricant, DEF, and equipment needs. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman. Visit ParmanEnergy.com for more info. Your Tennessee petroleum solution, providing totally outrageous customer service.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN. Welcome into Chase, Willie, and D-Mace.
Stillman and Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming. Get the extra point, no problem. And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Are you pushing these guys harder?
Yeah, I think so. Probably so. You know, I think I'm trying to push these guys each and every day. Like I said, don't want to take any day for granted out here, but I'm going to try to push them and get the best out of them. as well as myself. You know, I'm pushing myself, trying to get the best out of myself. So if we can all do that, if everyone who steps foot on that field can push themselves, and the leaders can push the guys around us to get the best out of everybody, we're going to be a really good football team.
There you go. That was Tannehill today. And you notice how it's like he's not going all in on saying, like, if I can push the receivers to be better and then we can, it is, you know, if the leaders can push the guys around them. Again, it's less personal when he says that.
Not, I want to be a leader that pushes my teammates.
I have to push my team so that when we're on the field, we will have success. It's like he won't go that one step of selfishness, and again, using those possessive pronouns. I did promise phones. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Do you have a thought, or you want to go to the phones?
To the phones.
Eddie is up next on Ryan Tannehill. Thank you for calling the show. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Eddie.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
I just want to say that I'm a longtime Dolphin fan. I've been watching Tannehill since he was a rookie. First pass, and I think he's a really good quarterback, and he's very athletic. He has a super strong arm. But Tannehill is very good when the team is running on all cylinders and when you have a strong running game. Like, he took Miami to the playoffs when he had Jay Ajayi, and that was the year that Jay Ajayi just went crazy. And he does really good when the running game is good in Tennessee as well. But when the team is not running on all cylinders and he has to put it on all the weight on his back, that's when he has problems.
So I think that's a good call, Eddie. And the one thing I would say about that is in the NFL, and I appreciate your call, in the NFL, I don't believe a team can win if the quarterback has to have everybody around him constantly playing great. I just don't think it's possible. Because the other team, it's not like a business where if I had a business, Jared Industries, and all of my managers who worked for me were running their departments as efficiently as possible. And Jared Industries made money hand over fist because it was an efficient, well-streamlined organization. There's nobody in that essence that is literally trying to stop Jared Industries from whatever it is that we do. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the NFL, there is literally a team every week that is trying everything they can to stop what you do. And so it always reminds me of what Floyd used to say about running the football, which is I can always stop the run if I want to because I can always bring one more than you can block, which is true because somebody has to run with the football. Mm-hmm. So you can't have, in the NFL, a team can't have 11 guys block, but they can bring 11 guys in to try to stop the run. So in that instance, while it'd be nice if the Titan defense plays great and gets 9 sacks in a game, if the punter is putting the ball down at the 3-yard line, if the field goal kicker hits everything in sight, if the return team gives short fields, if Derrick Henry runs the ball, then the chances are that Tannehill doesn't have to win the Titans that particular game. And we saw last year against the Rams them play a game on Sunday Night Football against a great team where the team played really well, and it allowed Tannehill to not have to have a great game, and it didn't matter. The problem is that in order for that to happen and to win a Super Bowl, that would have to happen at least 13 times probably during the regular season, and then it would have to happen at least 3 or 4 times in the postseason against the best quarterbacks in the NFL. That's not very likely to happen. What's more likely is that a guy who is capable of playing an elite level game, plays that kind of game. I watched Eli Manning do that twice. When Eli Manning won his 2 Super Bowls, while we all know that they took miracle plays against the Patriots in order for them both to happen, what I think a lot of people forget is that Eli Manning the week before in the NFC Championship game in both instances, I think it was the divisional round when he was with the Giants, the second Super Bowl, but he went into Lambeau Field and beat the Packers on the road, including a Green Bay team, I believe that was 15-1 in the divisional round of the playoffs. But that was because Eli Manning and the Giants had a great defense and the Giants had a running game, but it was because Eli Manning played out of his mind. At some point, Tannehill's going to have to do that. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Everybody talks about Trent Dilfer, and everybody says, well, you can win a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. So Trent Dilfer hit Brandon Stokely for a 30-yard bomb for the first touchdown of that game. And once they had that lead with that Ravens defense, they were fine. Just like when the Titans hit Khalif Raymond with a bomb at the Ravens last year or 2 years ago, and they played with the lead the rest of the game, and Derrick Henry ran the ball. But at some point, Tannehill has to make plays, and I just don't think there's any way around it.
I mean, I don't think that you can rely on your quarterback or rely on everyone else in your system to do what they need to do.
Well,
and you look at also like
think
look
about
at the
college
Ravens.
football. How many college football teams have won the national championship when they are a quarterback-only team?
I mean, I don't think that you can.
I mean,
win
I
with a
watched Lamar
quarterback-only
Jackson
team.
at Louisville win the Heisman Trophy. That team won 9 games.
Yeah.
I watched him the next year win 8 games. Then I watched him go to the playoffs the next year in the NFL. Because Lamar Jackson was a great player. But the rest of our team was hot garbage. And that's why, I mean, the best college quarterbacks of all time. I mean, I would say Cam Newton at Auburn might be the one example where, and I can't remember who else was on that Auburn team except for the tight end or fullback that passed away in a car accident. But for the most part, I don't think there were a lot of superstars on that Auburn team, and then they went right to the crapper as soon as he left. That might be the one. But think about Tebow's Florida teams. They had great players on that roster.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's LSU team, great players on that roster. Every Alabama team that wins a championship, great players up and down the roster. So this idea,
You could even argue that it's easier to win a national championship in college without a quarterback than it is easier to win a Super Bowl in the NFL without like an all-star quarterback.
Sure, because you don't have to go against Tom Brady.
Right.
That or whatever team it is doesn't have to go against Tom
I mean,
Brady.
Stetson Bennett isn't going to be any sort of first-round draft pick by any means.
No. But everything broke Georgia's way, especially.
And they had a good defense. They had other good players.
Mechie and Jamison Williams getting hurt. And I'm not, again, that's loser talk to sit there and say that if those guys hadn't gotten hurt. But
you won't know, but it also doesn't
pretty
hurt Georgia that Jamison Williams and
that Alabama
Mechie were
was playing
out.
with guys that'll be first-round picks in 2 years instead of the next year. What do we have in the text line?
One texter texts in and says, at this point in time, are you willing to say that you were wrong and it was a good decision to keep Tannehill after the playoff debacle last year?
Well, I mean, I think the bigger question is this. Because I didn't say that the Titans should cut Tannehill for nothing. I said the Titans should look to move on and try to get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or Tom Brady out of retirement.
An actual step up.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't saying, like, hey, put Case Keenum out there and let it rock. I was not arguing that. I think if the question is, will I admit that I was wrong, that I now believe that Ryan Tannehill can win the Super Bowl, the answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as I'm encouraged by what I've seen in training camp, I'm not changing my opinion that ultimately I believe the Titans, I was getting my AC fixed yesterday. The guy from Hiller who could not have been nicer.
Mm-hmm.
We were just chatting after we got the AC fixed, and he asked me if the Titans were going to make the playoffs this year. And I said yes. And I don't know why, because I haven't crunched it all yet, and we haven't done the official preseason predictions. But I said yes. I believe the Titans will probably make the playoffs this year. But if they make the playoffs, the road to the AFC, the road to the Super Bowl, probably involves this. Let's just say they win the division. They beat Indianapolis out for the division, which right now I'm leaning Colts. But let's just say they win the division. So now they're hosting a home playoff game, which would either be Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow from the AFC North, or probably Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, or Patrick Mahomes from the AFC West. So let's just say it's Herbert. So now the Titans have to beat Justin Herbert. Then, after Justin Herbert, they have to go on the road, probably to Josh Allen. Then, after going on the road to Josh Allen, they probably have to go on the road again to Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson. So now, at some point, Ryan Tannehill has to outplay all three of those quarterbacks. Now, he doesn't have to do that in every game because he probably didn't technically outplay Brady in that Patriot game at Foxborough, even though that Patriot offense was absolute dog crap and Tannehill hit a couple of good throws. But the point I'm making is I don't believe Ryan Tannehill can beat those quarterbacks when we all know, just like Andy Reid in the AFC Championship game, one of those coaches is going to load up and they're not going to let Derrick Henry win the game. Derrick Henry had, I think, 40 or 50 yards last year. He had 60 yards against the Ravens. He had 69, I believe, against Kansas City in the AFC title game. All of those teams with all of those quarterbacks, all of them for the most part except for Cincinnati and the Chargers have good coaches, and they are all going to try to take Derrick Henry out of the game. And so then the game is on Tannehill's shoulders unless the Titans' defense is so good that they can single-handedly win all those games for them, and I don't think they can do it. And you're asking the Titans to do it right now without A.J. Brown, which, well, I think they can. We'll see.
We'll see.
But A.J. Brown is a known quantity that the Titans don't have anymore. So to answer the texter, no, I'm not changing my opinion. Are you changing your opinion?
No.
And again, I think
I
Tannehill's
stand
had a
by the
great
fact
camp.
that I wasn't going to get rid of Tannehill for Kyler Murray or any other quarterback out there that
Baker
could have been
Mayfield.
available. No, yeah. I want to, if the Titans were to part ways with Ryan Tannehill, it was an Aaron Rodgers or it was
Russell
Wilson.
or Tom Brady.
Yes, I didn't want to just kick Ryan Tannehill to the curb and say, all right, Logan Woodside, you go do your thing.
But what I'm not doing is I'm not like Minnesota. I mean, I'm not giving this guy the Supreme Court justice status for some reason they can't get rid of Kirk Cousins.
I'm still skeptical about what Ryan Tannehill can do in the regular season. But what I'm saying is I've liked what I've seen in training camp so far. Can we go from there?
Let's get to more of your phones. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Plus, this has to be the most painful thing about training camp for the Titans. And I get it, but I don't know. We'll discuss and your phone. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Join Chase McCabe for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 for all the news in the world of motorsports.
Joey Logano gets the very first victory in the next-gen car
while hearing from the big names.
Two-time champion Kyle Busch.
Being able to bring NASCAR, the Cup Series, back to Nashville is cool.
It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Ample Collision Centers and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.
On ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
Look for a few thunderstorms early this evening, looking at a mild and muggy night ahead. More showers and storms on the way for Tuesday, containing heavy rainfall. Highs will be in the low 90s. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is an offer to buy your car. Enter your vehicle ID info, answer some questions, then get an obligation offer to sell or trade it. For all of the hits, kbb.comment.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. Being arrested doesn't have to be the worst day of your life. Being served with custody paperwork doesn't have to be the worst day of your life. It may feel that way, but if you have Amanda J. Gentry representing you, you can feel confident that you're going to have the best quality representation in all of Middle Tennessee. Amanda J. Gentry goes wherever justice demands. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Your company's hiring. Who isn't? We would love to show you how to use 102.5 The Game to attract and retain employees. We can also help you find the exact person you're looking for with a targeted digital campaign. You can trust our team to help you build your team. Email us at together@cromwellmedia.com.
I can go from 0 to 60 way too fast.
Who knew electric vehicle owners were having so much fun?
20 or 30 years ago, I owned a gas sports car, and this car is much quicker.
It's a great, fun car to drive. When you put your foot on the accelerator, it just goes.
They're fun, they're fast, they're efficient.
Visit driveelectrictn.org to learn how you can start having fun driving an electric vehicle.
Sponsored by the East Tennessee Clean Fuels Coalition, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Chase McCabe.
My play didn't work for him, and the way he coached didn't work for me.
Willie Donick.
It's survival of the fittest.
And Derek Mason.
A win-win-win across the board.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
At this point, do you start thinking regular season yet, knowing that you're not going to be playing in the preseason, or like what motivates you through this part of camp then, I guess?
I've been doing this for about 2 or 3 years now, so it's the same thing. I mean, nothing really has changed. Just take it day by day and continue to focus on getting better. I mean, that's the mindset, getting better. I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself, focused on week one, but just be present in the moment.
There you go. That was Derrick Henry earlier today. And, I mean, the Derrick Henry press conference was truly painful today. Because I don't think Derek has been on the practice field outside of the warm-up period since the last time Derek talked to the media.
Which was, 2 weeks ago?
I was going to say last week, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Ever since they put the pads on, Derrick Henry has not done a single important thing. And again,
he's been out there for warm-ups.
That's Vrabel's plan. We know it's the plan. And
he's not evading anything.
They have a preseason game that's coming up, and Derrick's not going to play in that. And then they have 2 practices against Tampa Bay, and Derrick's not going to practice in those. And then they have a preseason game against Tampa Bay, and Derrick's not going to play in that. And then they have 2 practices against Arizona. And my gut would tell me Derrick's not going to practice in those.
Probably not.
And then they're going to have a preseason game against Arizona. And Derrick's not going to play in that. And then they're going to play the Giants week 1, and Derrick's going to get the ball 27 times.
Sounds about right.
And so I have to wonder this. Is that in the best interest of the Titans? I know that. I know I believe Derrick Henry, trying to say, what I think the right thing to do is, the right thing is to what they're doing. The Derrick Henry does nothing. That is probably the right thing.
But I also don't think he's doing nothing.
Well, he's running on a treadmill inside.
He's doing his program.
Yeah, he's on his program.
Yes.
I believe Derrick Henry has to get hit in order to get going. That the Giants game in the regular season will be essentially like a warm-up game for Derrick. Now, those yards still count, but I'd be stunned if Derrick Henry went for a Derrick Henry 172 or a Derrick Henry 138 or whatever. I think what would be best for Derrick this season would be for Derrick to play in the last preseason game and get hit and then have a little bit of time off and then put Derrick back out there for the regular season. The problem is the ramifications of Derrick Henry getting hurt are so high. The consequences are so painful that I don't think the Titans would be willing to risk what could happen to Derrick just to get Derrick some work and for him to be ready to go. But this would be, in my opinion, like a Major League Baseball pitcher. And I'm going to ask the pitcher on opening day to go out there and throw 6 innings. But I'm not going to have him pitch in spring training at all. I'm just going to have him pitch in the bullpen a couple of times. And no live action, no hitters, no innings, no sitting down, no in between. Just, Derrick, you go to the bullpen every day and you throw about 40, 50 pitches maybe, and then you come out, and then now all of a sudden you're playing the Yankees. Go ahead. And, again, it's a total conundrum because the consequences of playing Derrick Henry in a preseason game and Derrick Henry getting hurt are just too high. But I would expect Derrick to be a slow starter this season just because he literally is doing nothing football-related for the most part to be ready for football. His foot does look fine, though.
Yeah, but in terms of, being out there and actually getting hit and going through plays, no, he's not doing that.
Right.
And, but I also have to ask, how is that different than anything he's done in the past? Or at least, the recent history?
I was going to say, when Derrick was first here, he actually was like the preseason guy.
Which makes sense, because when he first gets here. But, the past 3 or 4 years.
I don't remember what happened in 2019 because Derrick was still – he'd had 4 really good games at the end of the 18 season. Mm-hmm. And I forget how much they practiced him in pads then. I'm sure he didn't take a single carry in the preseason then.
No.
2020, there wasn't a preseason. Then they went to Denver, and Derrick got the ball 35 times. And I think he ran for 90 yards. But he got the ball 35 times, and – it took Derrick. It took Derrick a month to.
But also, at what point do you just stop getting the ball off to Derrick if he's rushing for 2 to 3 yards each time?
Never.
I guess let the big dog eat. Because you never know what carry could be pop off for 50 or 60 yards.
Every carry you give Derrick Henry could be the one that ends up changing the game.
Yeah. But I would get frustrated seeing that 30-something times whenever he rushes for 90-something yards.
They played a game against the Broncos, and I want to say it was that first game of the year. I want to say Henry for 2, Henry for -1, Henry for 2, Henry for 1. Henry
so frustrating.
And then all of a sudden, at the end of the day, he ran for 100 yards, but it was on 30-something carries.
Right.
And because I remember one of Floyd's 3 up, 3 down for that was he didn't like the conditioning. And there were no preseason games, and the COVID rules were different.
So, of course, the conditioning won't be there.
But they had to go to Denver with the air.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Derek was it looked like they had to get him
I'm
the
sure
mask
everyone
out there
was,
and put
yeah.
it over his face. What do we have in our text line? 615-737-1025.
One texter checks in and says this new energy in Tannehill is because of the quarterback competition.
There is no quarterback competition. You all will see for yourself Thursday night. And again, I don't mean this in a bad way from Malik Willis, I promise, but he's not there. Like, he's not ready to play quarterback in the NFL, and it will be obvious to you on Thursday night. Will he ever be ready to play quarterback in the NFL? I don't know. But he is not ready right now. Okonkwo is ready. McCreary is ready. Burks is ready. Phillips is ready. And I believe Hassan Haskins is ready. Petit Ferrer may not be ready, but he's probably right now going to be the right tackle of the Titans this year. Malik is not ready, and that's okay.
That's okay. Nobody expected him to
but
be
there
ready.
there is absolutely no quarterback controversy, and let me say this, Logan Woodside is terrible.
Well, maybe it's not direct quarterback controversy or competition or whatever words you want to use, but do you think just the sheer fact alone that the Titans drafted a quarterback lit a little bit of a fire under his butt?
You know, I was thinking about this because it did for Brady. Obviously, Brady never thought that Garoppolo was really all that good, and for obvious reason, because Garoppolo's not that good.
But it still made him mad.
But it pissed Brady off.
Yeah.
I mean, it absolutely pissed Brady off. Again, I think as we talked about selfishness and desire, and Brady is certainly higher than Tannehill in that regard. I don't know if the drafting of Malik lit a fire under him. I don't know. I don't know what led to this attitudinal shift from Ryan Tannehill. But he is playing better in training camp. At least playing better in training camp this year than he played last year. And we'll know more about it next week when he takes on Tampa Bay in practice again. And then if he's, not throwing interceptions and hitting guys in stride and good throws to Kyle Phillips and Westbrook Akina and McMath and those guys, then I think we'll feel a little bit better about it. At least I'll probably feel better about it one way or another. What's next?
Another texter texts in and says, please don't insinuate that Derek isn't practicing. I've been to camp twice, and he was practicing the whole time on the first field. Do you really want to take a chance on an injury during practice for practice reps? He's done a million times.
Didn't I just say no? Didn't I just say no? That there's, I understand why they're doing what they're doing. I'm not mad at the Titans for them doing what they're doing. I get it. I'm just saying, as far as Derek being ready, quote unquote, for week one, and I don't know what practice you went to, but it is not in the practices I went to, other than the one in the bubble where they weren't wearing pads, and he was very active in that. But the padded practices, he ain't doing anything.
No.
He doesn't do anything.
He warms up. And he runs through the running back drills. That's about it. You don't see him.
He goes in the weight room.
Actual 7-on-7, 11-on-11s.
And that's fine. I get it. It's like Derrick Henry they treat kind of like trying to think of the right word, kind of like a boxer who's getting ready for a big boxing match.
Uh-huh.
But the problem is there's 16 or 17 every week, as opposed to, hey, we want you to get ready for this one big fight 6 months from now, and then you have 6 or 8 months until your next boxing match.
Yeah.
It's different, but it's kind of the same. Where they're getting Derek ready for the Giants game. This is where, again, Daniel Jones got benched today at practice, which for me, I would say, I'd rather see Daniel Jones than Tyrod Taylor, and I don't know if that's something stupid, and if, 6 weeks from now, you want to see Daniel Jones now, Jared? Oh, after the Titans lose that game, if that's what happens. But it would, in a perfect world, the Giants will come in here to Nissan Stadium, get smoked, lay down. Derrick Henry will get 25 carries, and then .1025. A.J. Brown is back on Twitter, and this time, I had to do some investigating. I don't know what AJ means, but I think I do. I want to get to this coming up next. 615-737-1025. FanDuel Sportsbook, my official sportsbook app. I love them. Football Week 1 odds are out, and now is the time to try FanDuel Sportsbook if you haven't already. Get in on all the action early this season, because right now, new customers to FanDuel Sportsbook can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. There's tons of futures that you can make. For instance, Derrick Henry winning the rushing title is there. Treylon Burks, Rookie of the Year, is something you could probably bet on. Go to the FanDuel Sportsbook app to find more options. I would say, the Rams right now are plus 1,100 to repeat. Not going to happen. See, Matthew Stafford's got that baseball player elbow injury. Anywho, Derrick Henry winning the rushing title is certainly up there. And again, week 1, they're playing the Giants. Go ahead and bet on that one, too. Just sign up using the promo code JGM. Place your first bet, and FanDuel will give you up to $1,000 back in free bets if you do not win. There's no better place to get ready for the football season than on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and the official sports betting partner of the National Football League. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Use the promo code JGM. 21 and older in present Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days and restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
Your speaker at home is so smart that even Alexa knows where to find Nashville's best sports talk.
102.5 The Game is Nashville's best sports talk.
Ask Alexa to enable 102.5 The Game. Once enabled, ask Alexa to play 102.5 The Game.
Welcome to 102.5 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
Right now, I'd say Burks is doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I think Okonkwo is doing a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
McCreary is doing a great job. Kyle Phillips, I'm unsure of. So the way I labeled it was this. You tell me if you think you've seen differently. I believe that Burks, McCreary, and Okonkwo are ready to play in the NFL right now. Now, Okonkwo's blocking, I believe, needs a lot of work, but
in the passing game,
Chig
looks ready to hop in now.
I'm going to put him on the field before I put Jeff Swain on the field.
Yes.
So I think those three guys are ready. If they played a game tomorrow and Treylon Burks started at wide receiver and Roger McCreary started at corner and Chig Okonkwo was the second tight end, I'd be fine with it.
Tune in Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we'll take care of that free of charge. But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $69.99. You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
Don't be surprised this week to see other jewelry store owners shopping at Genesis Diamonds. They'll be taking advantage of Genesis' most aggressive offer ever. All GIA diamond engagement rings marked down an extra 20% below Genesis' everyday price.
That's right. The vault is open, and we're selling the finest handcrafted diamond rings at rock bottom prices. Now for a very limited time.
The GIA is the world standard in diamond grading, certifying accuracy and documenting quality, so you can buy with confidence.
Every Genesis engagement ring is included in this event, from a half carat up to 20 carat stones, all shapes, rounds, princess cuts, emerald cuts, cushion cuts, ovals.
There has never been a better time to get an extreme value price on a GIA certified diamond, perfectly set in a gorgeous engagement ring. Hurry in for best selection. It's Genesis Diamonds GIA Diamond Extravaganza.
Save an extra 20% on these rare, precious diamond rings, now for a limited time. One per customer, please.
Exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers, 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We got pass rushers.
Awesome game. Center flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury. He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 1025 1063. The game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Was at dinner last night with my parents.
Oh,
and,
nice. How'd it go?
It was fantastic.
Good.
And I was sitting there at dinner, and for some reason I had my phone out, went up to Twitter, just checking out what was on Twitter. And I saw a tweet from A.J. Brown.
Ah, the one and only.
A.J. Brown with a tweet. I'm like, I got to see what this is. Let's see what A.J.'s up to. A.J. Brown tweets out last night. Apparently they had an open practice at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. And I guess 30,000 people were at the practice. Which,
nice.
Again, my guess is they probably have one open practice. This was the one open practice. It was a Sunday night. I don't assume that school has started. As far as Philadelphia schools are concerned. But
if some have, it's probably very few.
What do I know? Anyway, so 30,000 fans went to the free practice, I would assume, at Lincoln Financial Field. AJ tweets out last night, Philly, are you serious? Question mark. And another question mark. That was practice! Exclamation point. Almost like the Allen Iverson practice, right? Like practice. Not a game. Not a game. Not the game that I love. That was practice. 30,000 plus here at practice, exclamation point. Nah, I love it here already. Today was fun. Only the beginning, fire emoji. If this were any other player, I would A, not care, and B, would brush it off as, this is a guy in a new city that has a big contract and big expectations, and he's just trying to warm up to the fans, and I feel like the fans are probably excited for the season, and so this is, yeah, you're our guy, you showed us, you're the man, you'll take us there, all those things that fans say. But not AJ. So correct me if I'm wrong. Both of you. I saw that tweet and I thought, oh, God, AJ, remember that last week the digs were at the Titans, right?
Uh-huh.
They're making me out to be the bad guy. They're making this look like it was my fault. It wasn't my fault. I'm not the reason I'm not there. All the other guys signed their contracts. They're not. This dig, I believe, is at the fans, right? Like 30,000 for an open practice. Wow, Philly. These Philly fans, you are the greatest. Not like the Titans.
See, I struggle with this because when I first read it, my first thought was, let me just be, the new guy that supports the new city and embrace the new city. And I do think a part of that might be, like, how much did the people on the inside, the PR people or the coaching staff in Philly tell AJ, hey, you got to start talking less bad about Nashville and more good about Philly because people are not going to like you if you talk like this. If AJ would have added in, wow, that was awesome. I've never experienced anything like that. Never in the past, anywhere I've been, has anyone been so supportive. I think I would be a little bit more on board with you.
Like his Mariota tweet, best leader I've ever been around?
Yes, exactly. That
so
insinuates like
Tannehill?
Something negative about Tannehill or negative about Titans fans.
Sure.
I'm not there yet. I think it was solely just a let me try and get on Philly fans' side and let me, just embrace the place I'm in now. I don't think it was a dig at the Titans.
Anybody else and I would have thought that. But AJ, it's so personal with him. And now I think it's the fans because he has taken about 3 or 4 rocket shots at the Titans, and not one person there has said a word about it. There hasn't been any – and this is what I would expect out of the Titans. Vrabel's not going to say anything. Robinson's not going to say anything. Tannehill and Henry aren't going to say anything. Simmons isn't going to say anything. Byard's not going to say anything, and nobody else who would say anything matters that much. Lawan, and he probably wouldn't say anything, right? So it just doesn't feel like it would be on brand for the Titans to respond to A.J. Brown. I hear what you're saying. And with anybody else, I would think that.
I know.
I would think that this is, and I will say this, I think A.J. in his heart knows that if things don't go well, he's in for a rocky relationship with those fans.
Oh.
And I wonder if A.J. is, to your point, trying to get off on the right foot of thank you, fans, for coming to practice. Now, they don't care about that in Philadelphia, but maybe he's trying.
And I do think that somebody probably said to him, AJ, you have to break up with Nashville.
So I don't agree with that. What you're saying right there, that part, I don't agree with.
Why?
Because I think what they're telling AJ is just please stay off of Twitter. Please just stay off. Just don't say anything. They don't want him to say something positive about Philly. They don't want him to say so. They just don't want him to say anything. Just like when Jalen Hurts put his hand over the microphone last week on the NFL Network interview.
Don't get yourself into any more trouble that you're
I
already
hear the
been
question
in.
you asked, NFL Network. Let me put my hand over AJ's microphone. I got a buddy that got divorced, right?
Mm-hmm.
Married for about 10 years.
Okay.
Got divorced. Got a new girlfriend. And always, using social media, in my opinion, I've not asked about this, and I'm a little embarrassed by this, honestly.
Almost to flaunt it.
It feels like it is a very direct crack at the ex-wife every time.
I've heard this story before many a time.
And I will say this, in my past life, of my current life, I have used social media to get people that I had felt jilted by's attention.
I think that's normal.
I have done that many a time. And so if it was anybody else, I would say what you said or not even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of a Titan who left the team last year. Who was on the team last year that was good that left? If Jack Conklin, now I know he's been gone for a couple years.
But still.
But if Jack Conklin had gone to Cleveland and said, man, the fans
Roger
support
Saffold.
Perfect.
Yeah.
If Roger Saffold said, the fans in Buffalo are the best.
I would not even bat an eye.
Would not have no opinion of that. But with AJ, it always feels like there's some kind of motive. It always feels like there's some kind of drama, and he can't let it go. And so I just asked the question, if that the Philly fans are great is really I love my new wife because she's so much better than my ex-wife. Take that, ex-wife. Yes.
Maybe so, because he's been doing plenty of that.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like it tracks.
He's been throwing plenty of shade.
Like,
so why would he stop now?
Let's just, for argument's sake.
But I'm also not there yet. Like, if he would have added that little bit in about you're better than any other fans have ever had, you're better, I've never experienced anything like this. That's just a little salt in the wound. That's like, take that,
I know,
fans.
I know.
Same thing with the Mariota tweet. If he just would have added, one of the best leaders I've ever had in my life, nobody would even talk about it. But he didn't.
But it's AJ.
I know.
Like, that's my point here with this is that I feel like you have to take into account that what I'm taking into account is it's AJ.
What got me, Naomi Osaka tweeted, I'm always on the verge of saying something wild. And AJ Brown quote tweeted that and said, I swear, period. Just depends on what type of time I'm on.
Well, again, Jalen Hurts put his hand. AJ Brown is
But there were so many Titans fans in the responses saying, yeah, we know, AJ. That's why you're in Philly.
Well, of course, every Titan fan is going to think it's about them.
But also the fact that he's saying, I'm always on the verge of saying something wild. Like, yeah, we know. That's the thing. That's the point. And you acknowledge that you're always on the verge of saying something wild. Yet here you are on social media.
He won't get off
yet
Twitter.
again.
He won't get off Twitter.
No.
He won't. But it goes back to, again, the two goofballs from NFL Network are sitting there interviewing AJ last week.
Yeah.
They asked him about Tennessee, which, again, Charles Davis. Charles, what are you doing to me, Charles?
Chuck.
What is he doing? Charles Davis on the NFL Network or the NFL radio interview. Charles Davis was like, we're not going to rehash all that stuff in Tennessee because I'm sure you've done that enough. No, Charles. No, Charles.
We haven't done that enough.
But
please give him the bait.
The goofballs from the NFL Network ask AJ about Tennessee, and Jalen Hurts puts his hand in front of the microphone as to keep AJ Brown from saying something reckless. Because, again, as Twitter will tell you, AJ just said, or whatever it is you're talking about that AJ tweeted, that he's always close to saying something crazy. Again.
Good friend, Jalen Hurts.
I believe that AJ's tweet was a subtweet at the Titans fans.
Maybe it was.
Ian, do you believe AJ's tweet about how great the Philly fans are was a subtweet at the Titan fans?
Part of me thinks yes, a little bit. I don't know how much he's considering the Titans fans into this situation or how much he's just trying to get on the right foot of the Philly fans. It's a hard balance to try to figure out there.
Or how much of it is not necessarily vindictive toward Titans fans, but to your point about you're in a new relationship. Look how happy I am. Look how amazing everything is going. Still has the Titans in mind, but it's not necessarily vindictive.
Maybe he's trying to talk himself into liking his new surroundings more and more.
Or talk them into liking him.
Or
both are true.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It's hard to read into social media these days with some of these kids.
Here's my thing with AJ.
But sometimes he makes it very easy to read into.
How much petty is in his heart? A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like, again, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, no petty in those hearts.
No.
Lawan, a little bit. AJ Brown, a lot of bit.
That is petty.
And it also kind of
Pettiness to a
feels
T.
like, again, going back to the AJ Brown tracker, he had that tweet last Sunday about Philadelphia, or about the Titans with the receiver signing. He had his comments on SiriusXM during the week. Then he had his comments on NFL Network after a couple of days. It's like there have been a couple days where there hasn't been any news about A.J. Brown talking about the Titans. It's almost like the A.J. alarm went off of that. Let me throw some shade.
Let me get back in the news cycle.
I'm going to say 85% I think that was about A.J.'s pettiness towards Titan fans.
I would say opposite. I would say it's 85% just about Philly, and maybe there's that 15% in there that he just had to get a little bit of a jab and a little bit of the last laugh from Titans fans. But I think a majority of it is just
15%?
15.
I know, 15%?
Yeah, I think
that's it.
85% is just Philly.
Oh. Ian, what
I think
percent?
you want there to be T.
What percent do you think this is AJ? I'm going 85. She's going 15.
That it's mostly directed towards the Titans fans?
Uh-huh.
Towards the Titans fans? I don't know. Part of me feels like it's more about the Philly fans. I'm gonna go 40 Titans.
Okay. 615-737-1025. I'm sure you guys have a reaction to this. Plus, AJ did two things at Philly camp that have made me realize what we all have to just admit about A.J. Brown and be okay with. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every Tuesday at 2:45.
Sanders for the touchdown, 48 yards.
Former NFL wide receiver Chris Sanders joins Stillman and Company to give his thoughts on all things Titans and NFL. Fueled by Parman Energy, now hiring fuel drivers. Apply now at ParmanEnergy.com on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
33 hours of savings this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Electronic Express. These deals are so hot, they only last 33 hours. Get a Hisense 65-inch 4K TV for just $399 or a JBL Bluetooth speaker for just $99. Save up to 50% on 4K TVs, computers, housewares, appliances, and more. Don't miss out on a Samsung Galaxy Watch 4 for $229 or a Medea laundry pair for just $399 each. Now through Saturday, shop online or at all Electronic Express locations.
Hi, I'm Emmitt Smith, Pro Football Hall of Famer and 3-time champion. Trust me, I know about joint pain.
Pro Football's all-time leading rusher Emmitt Smith talks about chronic joint pain and exciting new regenerative treatments from QC Kinetics.
I know what it's like to fight through pain, but now, you and I, we have help. QC Kinetics.
QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in advanced, all-natural regenerative medicine that can give you lasting relief with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Do you suffer with constant pain from arthritis or injury? Pain in your knees, hips, shoulders, or lower back? Don't assume steroids, pain meds, and surgery are your only options. Regenerative, restorative, natural solutions are now available.
Don't let your joint pain keep you from doing the things you love.
Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation and learn how regenerative medicine can repair and restore damaged joint tissue.
Make the call to QC Kinetics. Tell them Emmitt Smith sent you.
Call QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
Our fleet vehicle program is a great benefit to all the fleet companies in Nashville. We are able to get their vehicle back on the road a lot quicker than the downtime of most dealers and most general repair shops, simply because we have the transmissions available. We're able to put priority on their vehicles to get them back on the road quickly.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
Cromwell Media, who owns this radio station, is observing a significant milestone this month. Our founder, Bud Walters, is celebrating his 50th year as president. Joining Bud with anniversaries of their own are Max Hurst and Scott Meyer with 1025, 1063 The Game, and Ryan Burke in our sales department is also celebrating 1 year with us. From 1 year to 50 years, Cromwell Media is a great place to work, and you're invited to join us. Send an email to together@cromwellmedia.com and tell us about yourself. That's together@cromwellmedia.com.
COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too. If you feel symptoms, even if they're mild, you should test fast. Test positive and at high risk for severe COVID-19? Then act fast with authorized oral treatments that can be taken at home and must be taken within 5 days from when symptoms begin. COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too by asking your healthcare provider if an oral treatment is right for you. Learn about a treatment option at treatcv19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
Never miss a moment of the show.
What is this? Check it out.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
1025 and 1063 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
You watch a lot of A.J. Brown tape before he got here? I mean, I know you're buddies, but like, did you really dive in when he got acquired?
I've seen enough. I've seen enough. He here, so.
He knows.
I mean,
Tennessee's can bully some people.
Tennessee's on the schedule too. Have you looked at that? What week is that, AJ?
I think it's December 4th?
Okay,
December 12th,
he
like
knows.
It's
Yeah,
one of
you
them
know.
days.
You know exactly where it is.
Hey, but we're going to take it one game at a time, you know. We'll see them when we see them.
You had that tweet after Debo got paid and DK got paid. Your agent, Tory Dandy, negotiated those deals too, saying, and you guys, I'm paraphrasing here, but you guys still think it was me.
Yeah.
Have you come to peace with how things ended in Tennessee?
I can answer. I'm going to answer. No, I want to answer.
Looking out for you.
Yeah, that was just you know, it's a business, and I'm not upset about the trading thing because it is a business or whatever. But to be honest, I just didn't appreciate how it all went down, you know, and they just kind of blame me for it, you know. I'm man enough to say that, you know. So however people may take it, but you know, I have no bad blood with Tennessee. You know, I'm moving forward. I'm happy to be here, but you know, a lot of things people don't know about, you know, and they just point fingers at me. But that's okay though, you know. So.
A lot of things people don't know about. They just point those fingers at me. AJ last week on NFL Network.
Poor, pitiful AJ.
Let me say this. AJ had a beautiful catch yesterday, that open practice that the Eagles had. Jalen Hurts underthrew a football, which AJ better get used to, although he had plenty of experience here. Jalen Hurts underthrew a football, and AJ made an adjustment and made a basically one-handed kind of catch in the end zone between two defenders. It was beautiful.
I mean, AJ's a great player.
AJ's a great player.
We can talk bad about him all day long, but he's a good player.
Now, the day before, A.J. Brown apparently in practice. Let me make sure I have this up right. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts had a deep touchdown pass to A.J. Brown, but he dropped it. It would have been a touchdown. This is according to Elliot Shore Parks, who covers the Eagles for WIP in Philadelphia, a big-time sports radio station, said that, again, Jalen Hurts had a great deep pass to A.J. Brown, but Brown dropped it. Would have been a TD. Let me say this. Those two things, and again, it's practice, I know.
Yeah.
That's what A.J. is, though. What A.J. was here is what A.J. will be in Philadelphia, which is A.J. will be in and out of the lineup because A.J. cannot stay healthy. A.J. will make spectacular catches, spectacular plays where he catches a pass, he runs after it, and he goes 63 yards for a touchdown, and A.J. is going to drop the football. And I don't know how they'll react to all of that in Philadelphia. Here, you get the benefit of the doubt. There, I don't know. It's almost like, when do the drops come? You know, A.J. had his drops week 2 against Seattle. But A.J. also had a drop that would have been a touchdown on Thursday Night Football in 2020 against the Colts. Mm-hmm. So now, on Sunday Night Football, if your touchdown drop at the beginning of a game is against the Dallas Cowboys, how will they feel in Philadelphia? And I don't know. So I don't know how the A.J. Philly relationship's going to go.
Pretty good idea about how they're going to feel in Philly.
I don't know, because it's all about the win. But the A.J. that we saw here, beautiful catches, good player, big. He'll be that there.
I go back to that clip that was viral a couple years ago about there was this massive fire in a building, and someone miraculously saved all these children, and there was somebody from Philly who was interviewed about it, and he said, yeah, we were just throwing kids out the window and they were catching them, unlike Aguilar. So you just saved the lives of children burning in a building, and you had to bring up the fact that Nelson Aguilar keeps dropping passes. That's what Philly is like. It's everything. You are going to be raked over the coals if you don't do what you're supposed to do in Philly.
4th down, AJ's second game in the NFL. Mariota spiked it on 3rd down. On 4th down, AJ dropped it. How will that... What he was here is what he will be there. He was a darn good player here, and he'll be a good player there. But will being a good player be enough? Because they want more in Philadelphia. And I'll say this. If Robert Woods here is what Robert Woods was with the Rams, I'm cool. I'm good. But just something to think about. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What do we have? Jim is up next on A.J. Brown. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Just a comment. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I said sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just a comment about A.J. Brown. I've not heard anybody mention this. I'm sure they have because people a lot smarter than me. But A.J. Brown didn't develop this, I'll call it quirky for lack of a better word, personality all of a sudden. So I'm just wondering if his demeanor in the locker room behind the scenes that we didn't see and didn't know about have anything to do with the fact that they were willing to go ahead and jettison him. Because you're right, he's a really good player, but I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you for the call. I don't think it's the locker room that had a problem with A.J. Brown. I think it was the way in which he was going about handling his business. I'll give you an example. Let's say my contract was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in negotiations with our friends here at 102.5, 106.3 Cromwell Media. And again, this is completely hyperbolic, and this is not the case. Because I have had contracts, with, whatever. This is not new. Let's say that I wanted a new contract. And I went public with my complaints about the contract. That I said on the air, this 102.5, 106.3, they won't pay me what I'm worth, and they don't know, and they don't this, and they don't. How do you think these people will feel about it?
It's pretty bad. They're not going to like you airing the dirty laundry of what should be behind the scenes.
Because it's immature.
And it's unprofessional.
It's unprofessional, and it's nobody's freaking business. And with AJ, he felt so slighted by the way in which the Titans went about that contract negotiation that he displayed that immaturity and he displayed that unprofessionalism. I mean, I made a lot of big decisions in my life, and I will tell you they are hard. It is hard to make a big decision. It is hard to figure out what is in the best interest of the team or what is in the best interest of the player, or it's hard. I know this. They know. Everybody knows this. Everybody who's ever done this knows this. But there's a way about going about the business that AJ didn't do right. And that's why AJ's not here, in my opinion. What do we have on the text line?
Andrew texts in, and I kind of want to address this because this isn't the same this isn't the only text that's kind of along these same lines. But Andrew texts in and says, talking about AJ Weekly is straight clickbait. Who cares about that loser? We've been over him. Can we please move on?
I don't think Titans fans are over him.
I don't think so either. And it's not clickbait. I think it's just AJ continues to insert himself into the news cycle. And it's related to the Titans. And we'd be doing everyone a disservice if we didn't talk about it.
Again, we talk about what people care about.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a grocery store, and we sell what people eat. We don't sit there and say, sorry, at Jared's Market, we don't like beef, so sorry, no ground beef, no prime cuts, no. Nobody would be going to Jared's Market if that were the case. We talk about what people care about. People want to talk about A.J. Brown. And I'm going to say this. I remember the Tennessean used to do this, Marcus Mariota's rookie year. And I felt this way about the Tennessean would run these stories that were how Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston compare through the first 5 weeks of the season. Mm-hmm. And I never cared about that for a handful of reasons. But the number one reason why I never cared about that was because the Titans didn't have the choice to take Jameis Winston. It wasn't like if they had made the right call and taken, this guy instead of that guy, they didn't have the choice. They picked Marcus because Jameis was gone. Would they have taken Jameis number 2? I don't know. Probably. I don't know, though. So what do I care about the comparison between Marcus and Jameis? And so the Tennessean used to run that. I used to think to myself, who cares? But then as far as this is concerned, with the AJ thing, I do think the Titan fans care about AJ's performance. If AJ gets hurt this year and struggles, and the Philly fans get down on him, or Philly loses games, or he drops a big touchdown in a big game, Titan fans are going to celebrate it. I already know it. Because, again, I don't believe that the Titans are petty. I don't think Amy Adams Strunk is petty. I don't think John Robinson's petty. I don't think Mike Vrabel's petty about this. I do think Vrabel's kind of petty, but I don't think he's petty about this. I don't think Tannehill's petty. I don't think Henry's petty. I don't think Byard's petty. I don't think Simmons is petty. But I think the Titan fans are petty.
Well, I think they have every right to be petty about this because they didn't start the pettiness. A.J. Brown did. They're just responding to A.J.'s pettiness.
And that's how I feel. What else we got?
Matt texts in and says Tannehill's taking more responsibility might have to do with the A.J. Mariota tweet. I do wonder how that possibly could have affected Ryan Tannehill, or if he took that seriously, if he took that personally at all. If I were him, if I were in Tannehill's shoes, I'd feel a little offended, a little sad about that.
I think we talked about this when it happened, and I asked you a question about how Ryan Tannehill should feel, and you said a bunch of actions, like he should or he, and I was like, but how should he feel? And then finally I was like, I think he was probably kind of hurt.
Even though I don't necessarily think that A.J. Brown had, malicious intent involved in that tweet, because I do think that A.J. and Tannehill probably had or still continue to have a good relationship. But if I'm Tannehill, I'd be a little sad.
Being more direct, talking about his guys, his thoughts, his people, his guys. 615-737-1025. We'll get back to your phone, 615-737-1025. Plus, the new and improved Tannehill. TD texted me with a thought, and I do wonder this, which we'll get to next, 615-737-1025. Hey, Souls for Music City. Again, school starts this week. We want to send these kids that are dealing with homelessness to school with real shoes on their feet. It's only $20 for a pair of shoes, and you can save a life. Because some of these kids are embarrassed to go to school without the lack of proper shoes. Souls for Music City is here to help those kids. Souls for Music City is our cause. Please consider joining us with a simple $20 donation. That is all it takes to put a new pair of athletic shoes on the feet of a homeless child in Middle Tennessee. Just text DONATE to 615-737-1025 right now and help make a difference in the life of a single child. That's 615-737-1025. Thanks for your kindness.
Hey, Preds fans.
Running across to make the save is Sarah.
You can now hear Nashville's best sports talk.
The backhander, he scores!
And every Predators game on 106.3 FM.
Oh, that was a thing of beauty.
From downtown Nashville to Rutherford and Williamson counties.
Duchesne with the overtime winner.
Catch all the action on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Are you ready for this?
You've never seen the PBR like this. Buckle up for the ultimate weekend in Western sports as the PBR Team Series invades Nashville's Bridgestone Arena, August 19th through the 21st. 8 teams, 3 days, 1 champion. Don't miss your chance to watch history as it's made. Get your tickets now at PBR.com or Ticketmaster.com. PBR Team Series. Bull riding will never be the same.
Don't be surprised this week to see other jewelry store owners shopping at Genesis Diamonds. They'll be taking advantage of Genesis' most aggressive offer ever. All GIA diamond engagement rings marked down an extra 20% below Genesis' everyday price.
That's right. The vault is open, and we're selling the finest handcrafted diamond rings at rock bottom prices. Now for a very limited time.
The GIA is the world standard in diamond grading, certifying accuracy and documenting quality so you can buy with confidence.
Every Genesis engagement ring ring is included in this event, from a half carat up to 20 carat stones, all shapes, rounds, princess cuts, emerald cuts, cushion cuts, ovals.
There has never been a better time to get an extreme value price on a GIA certified diamond, perfectly set in a gorgeous engagement ring. Hurry in for best selection. It's Genesis Diamonds GIA Diamond Extravaganza.
Save an extra 20% on these rare, precious diamond rings, now for a limited time. One per customer, please.
Exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
I'm Cindy Mae Johnson from Mountaintop Media in Pikeville, Kentucky. You may have seen or heard about the flash flood disaster our people have suffered, but I promise you no news story can accurately convey how much help is needed. Lives have been lost, homes destroyed. If you're willing or able to help even a little, donate to the East Kentucky Dream Center on Venmo or at ekdc.raisegiving.com. That's ekdc.raisegiving.com. Thank you.
When you want to rock.
Let's go, don't wait. This night's almost over. Do all the monsters come out at night? Why do we sleep when we want to? We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
I want to take more chances with the embroidering.
Henley's vision for a new clothing line is coming into focus.
Dramatic.
They'll need an on-staff photographer to put their collection in the spotlight.
Why is no one taking shots of these?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into Chase, Willie, and D-Mace.
Stillman and Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, this is Philip Forsberg. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Are you pushing these guys harder?
Yeah, I think so. Probably so. You know, I think I'm trying to push these guys each and every day. Like I said, don't want to take any day for granted out here, but I'm going to try to push them and get the best out of them, as well as myself. You know, I'm pushing myself, trying to get the best out of myself. So if we can all do that, if everyone who steps foot on that field can push themselves and the leaders can push the guys around us to get the best out of everybody, we're going to be a really good football team.
An attitudinal shift in Ryan Tannehill, according to a psychiatrist who texted into the text line earlier today. Again, I asked him, are you pushing the guys harder? He said yes, which is weird because I didn't end that question with harder than last year because I knew that if I did, he would say, well, I push him hard every year, which honestly, is starting to tick me off with Tannehill. Belichick does this too, where if, let's say I ask a question to Bill Belichick, Bill, this year, Matt Patricia, who has never coached offensive football in the NFL, is calling plays for your offense. Is this year different than with the offense than in years past? Well, every year's different. Well, I mean,
okay, but how?
Yes, Bill,
we get that, we understand that, but
right. It's an unmitigated disaster of practice this year. That's what we want to know, and it hasn't been before.
That's like I asked Vrabel, how did practice go today? Practice, is the same every day. Okay.
I don't know.
That's
After
not
that Tampa
true.
Bay practice last year, I asked him how it went. He walked up in just the most despondent Vrabel mood, and I just go, how's practice today, Coach? I think it sucked. So it ain't the same every day. Now, say this. We were talking about what has led to this attitudinal shift in Ryan Tannehill. And I asked Mike Vrabel, after Tannehill said that he was pushing the guys harder this year, I asked Vrabel why that was. Here's what Vrabel said. Have you noticed Ryan pushing the guys?
I think his leadership is, something that's been good. I think that's probably intentional. I think he knows when to push guys and when to pull them along, and sometimes how you have to approach certain guys to get the best out of them. And, if I'm a receiver, that's the most important relationship that we'll have on our football team is the one with the quarterback and the receiver because, that he's the guy throwing the ball. So wherever he needs them or wants them on a particular route or versus particular coverage, that's where I would be if I wanted to try to get the ball.
So it's almost like Vrabel saying, yes, I have noticed him pushing these guys, and I want him pushing these guys. And if the quarterback and the receiver don't see eye to eye and the receiver comes to me, I'm taking the quarterback side.
Mm-hmm.
TD texted me. We had a texter texting earlier who thought that perhaps the drafting of Malik Willis is what has led to this attitudinal shift.
Yes.
TD thinks it's a Cincinnati game.
Can it be a lot of things all combined? Can it be the Cincinnati game combined with, the fallout after the game, combined with drafting Malik Willis? I think it can be all of those things combined. But I think the Cincinnati game, like if I have to do a pie, I would say the Cincinnati game is probably like 60 to 70% of it.
What do you think bothers Tannehill the most?
Cincinnati game.
I do too. And I think TD might be right. I think the Cincinnati game. And I want to compare this to, like life-altering moments. But oftentimes I hear of people that will talk about hitting rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And how it feels, and I haven't had a lot of people, thank goodness, in my life that have hit rock bottom. But in those discussions, I feel oftentimes it is one singular event that led to the moment of rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I read Men's Health magazine every now and then, and they'll have guys that, lost 63 pounds and what it was for them. And it wasn't just that I was tired of being overweight. It was, I remember when I couldn't fit onto my daughter's school bus, and that was the moment for me that I felt like I had to make a change.
A rude awakening.
And I could see drafting a quarterback being something that would be that moment of that rock bottom of it has to change. But just based off of what I think with Tannehill and what I know of Tannehill, I agree with Tehran. I believe that it was the Cincinnati game and that Ryan Tannehill decided I have to start doing things differently. And, again, I still believe it was Vrabel who pushed him in this direction to be more vocal, to take more ownership, to be more authoritarian over the offense. I believe, as Vrabel said, and again, in the clip we just played, Vrabel said it was intentional. And I feel like that was Vrabel's idea, and Vrabel told Ryan. I think Mike Vrabel believes that in order to give him the best chance to succeed as a football coach, he has to give Tannehill more authority over the offense and less handcuffing over what he wants him to do.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want Tannehill anymore to be one of the 53 guys, no matter what he says. And I believe when Vrabel took this job, I believe Vrabel looked at Marcus as the quarterback and that he wanted to turn Marcus into a franchise quarterback, but that Marcus was going to have to follow the system and do what the coach said and everything else, and that Marcus and Tannehill and everybody had to be one of 53. Just like at the end, Belichick didn't want the special guru giving those massages while he's kissing his son in Brady's in the locker room anymore. He didn't want any more of that TB12 bull crap. And I think at that point I read a book where Brady started referring to himself as an employee and just saying, I guess I'm just an employee here. And that was a big moment there in their relationship. I believe Vrabel is seeing this the other way, which is I have to give the quarterback a special privilege or level of leeway that I would not give any other player on this team.
Special sense of ownership.
I have to give him a special level of authority over this offense because no matter what, no matter how easy it would be for me to say I'm in charge of everything, which we know in Vrabel's world, if Vrabel could be in charge of everything, Vrabel would be in charge of everything.
Yeah.
While it would
Belichick
be easy
is the
to
same
do that,
way.
I don't think Mike Vrabel is going to – I think Vrabel looks at it as instead of me telling Tannehill what to do, I need Tannehill to tell me what he wants to do, and then I'll tell everybody else, and he'll tell everybody else what we're going to do. And this goes back to that same discussion that I brought up last week, and I was talking to a football coach about this weekend, which was the Kyle Shanahan and Tom Brady story, where Brady became a free agent, called Shanahan. Shanahan was entertaining the idea of ditching Garoppolo after making the Super Bowl for Brady, wanted to go over end-of-game situations. Brady thought it was ridiculous. Like, how dare Kyle Shanahan ask me this? Because Brady's got an ego, and let's not kid ourselves. Brady is worthy of having an ego.
Yes.
So Brady thinks it's ridiculous that Kyle Shanahan would ask him about end-of-game situations. And so Brady becomes a smartass, and he starts talking about the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl. And the show in Boston that I listened to, Felger and Maz, they said that they talked to an old coach who said, look, it wasn't Shanahan who blew that Falcons Super Bowl. It was Matt Ryan. And if Tom Brady was the quarterback, then there's no way that would have happened. This idea of not running the ball or because Brady wouldn't let it happen. I had an old quarterback coach tell me one time that they would have the quarterback over to dinner at their house every Thursday night, and they'd put up all the third down plays. And they wanted the quarterback to tell them, the offensive coordinator, which plays they liked and which plays they didn't like. Because it doesn't matter what the coordinator likes. It matters what the quarterback feels comfortable doing. And I think before, and maybe with Arthur could sense this in Tannehill, or maybe Arthur and Tannehill had a better relationship to where Vrabel didn't have to tell Tannehill, hey, we're going to do what you want to do, but you have to tell us what you're comfortable doing, and you have to work with us, and you know, within the ramification or the scope of what I give you. But I think this was Vrabel's way of saying, this is what I'm doing to change to make you better. And that this is what Ryan Tannehill's doing after he felt like he hit rock bottom of that Cincinnati game.
Let's operate under the conditions that is what happened. How much of that do you think was motivated by Vrabel looking at the kind of unspiraling relationship between Belichick and Brady? That Vrabel looked at that and said, I understand that this isn't Tom Brady, and I understand I'm not Bill Belichick, but I can't have complete control over every aspect of this team or they're going to resent me.
I think there's a level of that to this. I believe that Mike Vrabel looks at Bill Belichick differently than every single other quote-unquote Belichick coach. Because Vrabel
he wasn't a Belichick coach.
He never coached for Belichick. But a lot of the things he does are taken straight from the Belichick program. I think those coaches worship the ground that Bill Belichick walks on. Patricia, Joe Judge, all those guys, that they think that freaking Belichick is, the king bee. Just like how Belichick kisses the ground that Bill Parcells walks on. If you watch the documentary, The Two Bills, Parcells is so rude to Belichick, like so condescending to Belichick, and Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, takes it because that's just their relationship. Well, Vrabel, when players win championships, players look at coaches differently than fans look at coaches. Players look at the coaches like, you're just a coach.
Players make more money than the coaches 9 times out of 10.
I don't need to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
You're just a coach. I've had plenty of coaches, and I'll have another coach at some point, and so you're just a coach. Well, Vrabel knows that. And I think that those Patriot players look at Belichick, and they think, yeah, he's the guy that got us together, but ultimately we won those championships, and Tom was the reason we won those. And I think Vrabel looks at it that way, whereas the other Belichick coaches don't. I mean, Asante Samuel, who was a great corner for years on those Patriot teams, Asante Samuel came out and he said, like, it has nothing to do with Bill. He said, Bill's just a coach. Brady is why we won those championships. And
I bet Bill hated that.
I think, according to how Patriot practice is going on right now, I think Bill has his hands full with dealing with real-life stuff that he needs to get taken care of with that team, as opposed to who gives a rat's ass what Asante Samuel has to say. But, yes, I hear you on
T's and P's to the Patriots offense.
And I will say this. I think Bill does care about this stuff. I think Bill cares about it. I think Brady cares about it.
Yeah.
One more wonderful segment of your phone call, 615-737-1025, Stillman & Company, 1025-1063, The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman & Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
Look for a few thunderstorms early this evening, looking at a mild and muggy night ahead. More showers and storms on the way for Tuesday, containing heavy rainfall. Highs will be in the low 90s. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
With your home value up again, you are sitting on a pile of money. So don't let it sit there. Use it. Willie Donick here for my friends once again at Loan Pronto. Introducing Loan Pronto's Equity Line of Credit program. You don't have to refinance, but you can access up to 97% of your home's value. Get cash now to pay off all your credit cards or do that home improvement project. Get your down payment for a new home or stash away for a safety net. You can get $50,000, even $100,000 or more out of your home. And the payments are crazy low. Think what you could do with $100,000 right now. Loan Pronto makes unlocking your equity easy, and they can probably even waive the appraisal. Don't just let all that home equity pile up. Turn your house into an ATM machine and get the cash you need. Call Loan Pronto now, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
If you've got a yard, you may plan on digging in it. Like to build an addition, put in a pool, or bury your pirate booty. But you should know that throughout the country, there may be pipelines buried underground. And if you hit one, you've got trouble. Sorry. So before you dig, call 811 to have any buried pipelines located and marked at no charge. For more tips on pipeline safety, visit pipesafety.org. A message from the Tennessee Gas Association, Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Robbie Stanley.
They get a lead in that game and just totally close the door.
Joe Rexrode.
If he plays next year, it's disastrous.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company right here again. Titans practice in the books. Nothing really happened that much today. I'm at the point now where I'm kind of bored with practice. It's time for a preseason game Thursday night against the Ravens.
I need a little bit of something spicy mixed in there. I need some change.
I am bored with practice. Next week, Tampa Bay. Tom Brady makes his return to Nashville on the practice field. Last year, I had so much fun in Tampa Bay for those practices until when I left Tampa Bay. But that's okay. But I will tell you that I had so much fun in Tampa with Brady when he was here. I had so much fun when Brady was here in 2019 with the Patriots, threw a ball on the side that was incomplete that I grabbed with one hand, and I turned to Corey Curtis and I said, Brady pass complete to Jared Stillman. Oh man. Let's go to your phones. Your phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
One texter texts in and says, I wonder how much the money in the top 12 quarterback rankings went to Tannehill's head.
I don't think any of that went to Tannehill's head. It was funny. I was listening to Kevin Byard on the Sirius XM NFL tour, and Kevin Byard was talking about how he had a bad 2020 and obviously righted the wrongs last year in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget that 2020 was when Byard's contract had kicked in. He signed it like right before training camp of 2019, and then it really kicked in 2020. And then the COVID shutdowns happened and everything else, and Byard was pelotoning and whatnot. And I remember Floyd just throwing it out there about the idea that maybe Byard was getting a little comfortable. And I remember thinking, Kevin Byard? How dare you say that about Kevin Byard? I couldn't believe it. The more I've kind of thought about it, the more when I listened to Byard today talk about it, the more I kind of got the sense that, yeah, Byard kind of. But then Byard did give credit to the defensive line being good, and we know that they were horrible the year before. And so I don't know if Tannehill got too comfortable or not. I don't think so, though. I just don't see Tannehill as that kind of guy. I just think Tannehill needs a little mean in him. It's like.
But getting comfortable versus letting things go to his head. I don't think any of those things went to his head. But I do think that there is just a natural human reaction that when your job is on the line, your contract is on the line, whatever that might be, if you have something to play for, you're going to just play a little bit harder than if you don't.
I would agree.
And that doesn't make you a bad person.
I would agree, but sometimes those guys play too hard and then they psych themselves out.
Yeah.
Like Marcus.
Yeah.
What's next?
Another texter texts into the text line and says, what do we hope to see on Thursday?
That's a really good question. And we'll probably do like 3 shows about that before we do that. I mean, I think Burks and Farley are going to play, so, I mean, I would probably circle them. But Thursday it's just going to be nice to see the guys put the pads on, go out there, play some football. It'll be like our own version in Nashville of the Hall of Fame game. Like, it's football.
It doesn't mean anything, but it's football.
It's
something.
Football. It's football. I will also be watching the Giants-Patriots game. I believe that is a nationally televised game that we will all get. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's NFL Network. Maybe it's one of these, Fox, CBS. They always show some preseason games.
Right.
I mean, I want to see the Giants' first team. I'm sure Daniel Jones is going to play some because he's been doing so poorly. I want to see what they look like because that's the first opponent here. I don't think
Daniel Jones is going to play in the preseason game?
I do. I don't think there's a single important Titan outside of the young players that will play. Now, what will be interesting will be if Petit Ferrer and Dylan Raditz play, but it won't really matter because Nate Davis is not going to play. And Ben Jones is not going to play, and Taylor Lewan is not going to play. But I would wonder if those guys play a little bit. What's next?
We have a bunch of texters texting in about A.J. One texter says, I'm glad A.J. Brown is gone. He stayed hurt too much, and I think we're going to be better with Woods and Burks.
Easy to say that now.
It is.
Easy to say now. Look, I think they made the right call, and I've said this many times. I believe that they made the right call in trading A.J. Brown. But it is easy to say that today. It will not be as easy on November 13th. On November 13th, you will know if they made the right call going with Treylon Burks as opposed to A.J. Brown. You will not know that on August 13th. And I know fans love to talk themselves into things like, our team's better off without you. But it's easy to say that now. I'll say this. I've watched the New York Mets for years combust when it gets to the dog days of summer. And I watched them in July start to combust, and the Braves come right back into this race. And now I've watched them play 8 games. And I've watched the Mets win 6 of those 8. And I am a big Braves fan, but I will be the first to tell you that the New York Mets are a better baseball team. It is easy for me to say a month ago before they played those 8 games. It's easy to say that you're better than the team that you don't like or better than the guy you don't like or that the draft pick you made is the right pick. Harder after you see some of the results, or at least for me it is. And I believe that there's a chance that A.J. Brown's going to play well, and all of us are going to sit there and say, oh, no, they traded A.J. But, again, where I said I do believe that was the right call. But
I still stand by it. And that's to your point, that's easy to say when A.J. hasn't played a single down in Philadelphia.
Yeah, if Treylon Burks stinks,
however,
it won't.
We don't really know what's going on the inside in Philadelphia. A.J. could be balling out like he did for the Titans, and then he's just an absolute nightmare to deal with. And I think that's ultimately what fueled a lot of the trade, injury and attitude.
So I want to end the show with this. Today would have been Floyd's 74th birthday. And over the years, we celebrated it in really random ways. He used to always talk about how nobody would ever celebrate his birthday in his family because he was always coaching football at training camp. And this was when training camp was real and not the current training camp, not the current whatever.
2 days.
Yeah, that was real training camp. And this is the first one without him. And it's been really hard for me. It's been a really hard year. It's been really hard 2 years. And it's been really hard. And sometimes I think I need to stop talking about it. And every time I think about that, I feel like I would be doing a disservice to really what this show is about. So I just wanted to acknowledge that today would have been his 74th birthday and that we're thinking about him.
Happy birthday, Floyd.